Hello. Oh shit, need to get better. Quick, hello. Hello, beautiful people. Look at this. So Arian's memberships went through. That is fantastico. I was actually going to ask Sarah P today because I saw Sarah P and Lady Law both got messages yesterday. Christine Fortunato. How are we, Christine? How are we? Hope you're well, Christine. I'm not sure if you were with us. I know you came in yesterday, but I'm not sure if you stayed or if you went. I don't know where you went. I was like, "Hi, Christine." Gone. So good. Hope you're well. Hope you're well, Christine. Um, we're doing the closing arguments of this today. Oh, there we are. So we're just waiting for the judge now. This judge is awesome, and she likes to be on time. Whip likes to be on time. So hopefully stay with. Oh, Sarah P's here. Morning, Sarah P. Hey, Sarah P. I'm glad. I noticed this morning my time that you and Lady Law had become members. I was like, I don't think Lady Law is going to pay for it. So I was going to ask you, did it come through gifted or not? So I'm super chuffed it came through gifted for you and Lady Law. Happy days with that. Um, that's good. It doesn't show up for me anyway that it was gifted, so I've it doesn't even come up on. It comes up on my list that you both rejoined, but it doesn't come up on my list about how we joined. Do you know what I mean? So, but you're here, you joined. Happy days. Doesn't matter. So we gotta go to the judge. Judge. I've tweeted out already. Judge Stephanie Boyd. So Christine, you're more than welcome here. Sarah says good morning to you. You know, very friendly here. Hope you enjoy it here. Um, chat as much as you like or as little as you like. It's not a bother. Right. Okay. So she's not. I need to keep an eye on my phone and so my notifications don't work on my phone for this judge, but it works on my laptop, which is weird. So I'll keep refreshing it, and when it comes to 3 o'clock, then it's like, so this is gonna be finished today. Then all of a sudden, oh my god, I just seen like loads of trials. What, like loads of trials on law and crime? What's going on? You got the one defended himself. I think today's like day 3 or something. We got a beauty one, but I think that was just yesterday. There's another one. Um, right. Oh, right. I found one as well, 2020. But yours is probably better. Mine's like 1 hour 20. So we'll use yours because mine's not actually 2020. It's it's 2020, but with another person who's done it, you know. So Christine, what are you gonna stream next? I don't know, Christine. This is what we decide today. So we will be looking at so we're not doing anything today other than this stream. So we're doing this stream. Then once it goes into deliberations, we're going to watch a documentary, 40-minute documentary about Ethan Couch. And then after that, we'll decide because Law and Crime have got the Beauty Queen has done, I think. I'm going to wait for them to go live because they're not updated anything yet. For some reason, the essay one, that's not there anymore. So I don't know. So what I do know, Christine. Yes, you can. Yes, you can, Christine. Of course you can. You're more than welcome to make suggestions. We normally do a poll then and see what people want to do. So you can absolutely make a suggestion. Only proviso I got is we are going to be doing business next Monday onwards because the stream have asked for that. So whatever you're going to suggest, I hope it doesn't last more than a week. And then obviously we got, if in between we're stuck, we got this judge as well. So we're going to mix it up a little bit. All right. Bum, bum, bum. Okay, we got that one. That's good. Okay, just making sure that I got a refresh here just in case. Hopefully, closing speeches, arguments aren't going to be long. Opening statements weren't long. So, oh, hang on, that's live. Okay, so law and crimes trials are live now. What have they got? Okay, yeah, we're not doing that. Oh, the home invasion. It was a home invasion one, it was. Not sure where they are with that. Texas versus Darren Rubin. Darren Rubin. Okay, when does that start? Because oh, Miriam Griffiths is facing trial in Texas. Mm, reveal a bit. Ba 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 ba. Don't know. We'll be 24th. Right. Well, I'll put in the mix, but I'll be honest with you. I'm not sure people. Right. Yeah, July 24th. I just seen that as well. So, Christine, the problem we got is I'll take it to poll. I'll take it to a poll, but I know that a lot of people want to watch the business, and that's scheduled so far to go on the 24th. But we can still ask people. So I will do a poll, and I will ask what people want to do for that. I would be very surprised if they don't want to do show business. That's the only catch. But also, is Darren Rubin going to be on Law and Crime Network? Because if it's not, I can't do court TV. I can only do Law and Crime. That's the only other catch. Or unless it's directly from court. Those are the only ways I can do it. Okay. It's absolutely coming down today with us. Rain, rain, go away. Come back another day. Awful weather. Home on our way with you each day. Come on, Judge Boyd. Hold me in your arms, don't let me go. Da-da-da-da, together, home and away. Something someday. Right, she's not there. I've refreshed it about 4 times, so another 5 minutes before she comes. So yeah, we got stuff to decide today. Definitely got stuff to decide today about next week. Um, Depends what people want. I'm happy to do Judge Boyd all week. I've no issues with that. It's just more of a if people want to. There's a couple new trials happening. You love court cases. We love court cases as well. We love it. You come to the right place, Christine, for that. It's quiet here today. What's wrong? Sarah P, you must be busy. Who else is here? Say hello, my friend. Do you know what? Yesterday, I lost 5 subscribers yesterday. No, I didn't. I lost 3 subscribers yesterday, but then I gained 4 today. It's weird how it works. I don't know how. I think they just unsubscribe people. So you should check your subscriptions with people. Couldn't believe it. I was like, why have I just lost 4 people in literally an hour? 3 people, sorry, and then I gained 4 people today. How was that work? Mhm. Ever have anyone you have to work with that you want to punch in the face? Not great Saturday. Oh, Sarah P. Huh. Sarah P. You come to the right place. You gotta remember, I used to manage staff. I used to manage staff, Sarah P. And I can tell you now, there were people that I wanted to punch in the face. And there was one guy that I definitely wanted to punch in the face. And he was on like same level as me. And they were very much people. And I had to tell him to go F off, do one, and some other nasty words, swear words, in front of a meeting with other people in there. I just had enough of him. He was an absolute prick. I can't stand people like that. I hate them. I hate two-faced people. I hate people who smart me behind your back and oh. But the trouble is, I can only hold it in so much. I have to then tell them. And my unfortunately for me, I sometimes swear in front of everyone and tell them. Those are free, right? Um, well, I mean, yeah, Law Network's free. I don't get court TV at all. And then the courts themselves, like this one, is free as well. Yes, it's not very often you have to. Sometimes you have to pay. Sometimes, but not all the time. I'd say probably 10% of the time, 20% you have to pay, but most of the time it's free. YouTube does that. Yeah, it's weird. Why do they do it though? Like literally, I thought, why have I just lost 3 people and then gained 4? Right, we're getting excited. Judge Boyd's on the way. Hey, hey, hey. Boydie, Boydie. Hey, hey, hey. Christina, are you gonna disappear on us today now? You were here 1 minute yesterday, and then people were like, "Hi, Christine," and you disappeared. Hello, Kim. Kim, we got Christine back. Christine Fortunato. She's back. I hope she stays. I hope Gio comes, and Gio's from Italiano and lives in America, no? I can't do an Italian accent, so apologies for that. I was dreaming other stuff on court cases. Cool, 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 cool. I hope you're well, Kim. Just waiting for the judge. Judge. Hello, the judge. 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 Hello, the judge. Bam 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 bam. Playlist on home. Playlist. No. Life. No. Home. Yes. She's not there though. She's not there though. Oh, come on, Judge Boyd. We love you, Boydie. We love you. I was streaming other court cases. That's all good, Christine. Yeah, yeah. There's plenty of court cases out there, Christine. Who do you normally follow? Who's your who's the best streamers for you? Who do you normally watch? Mum, 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 mum. Bum, ba-dum, bum, ba-dum, bum, ba. I didn't manage to watch many documentaries last night. I tried to watch them this morning. I fell asleep. Oh, here you go. I'm so seeing so many streams saying that Sarah Boone's been. It's not going to happen on Monday. Next Monday. I don't know what's going on.
So,
No, I know you're new to
this
it.
case
I know you're new to
is an indecency with child by
it
contact.
as well. We've only been here.
So they did a jury. The state presented their case. And so the way it works, a jury is selected. Once the jury is selected, in my court, I always have alternates. So normally in normal felonies, and there are some felonies that are hybrids, but true felonies, there are 12 jurors on a panel. I always do 2 alternates because you never know if something's going to end up happening. So if let's say a juror were to be involved in an accident, and we've had jurors been involved in accidents before, if you go under 12, in order to continue with the jury trial, both the state and the defense will have to agree that they'll continue with less than 12 jurors. So that's why I always do alternates. So the state put on their case, the defense put on their case,
Another
and both
CG.
sides have rested and closed. Once both sides have closed, then what ends up happening is a jury charge is made. It's titled charge of the court, but it's just a jury charge, and it's an instruction to the jurors. Are they lined up? I'll explain the rest to you.
Judge,
Yes.
is there any way I could possibly ask for 20 minutes instead of 15?
Are you going to take the entire 20 minutes?
I'm not sure. I'd rather
Okay.
have too much time than not enough.
Okay, I will give you 20 minutes.
Thank you, Judge.
And state, I will give you 20 minutes.
Thank you. And if I could get a 5-minute warning.
All right.
Thank you, Judge.
Oh, so close down. It's only 20 minutes.
All right, Deputy Little, let me call the case. Court is calling 2022 CR 1331.
Right, she's calling in. This is amazing. They got 20-minute closings. Can you imagine that? 20 minutes. So what we'll do, we'll watch this now, watch all the jury instructions. 39, Jesus, yeah. Well, yeah, I think he said 20 minutes, and I don't think the state are going to take that long. And jury instructions, I think we're only going to be an hour. I don't think the jury are going to be deliberating for long. So I think we're going to be done this morning. I do wonder if the judge is going to do a docket all morning then. We'll see. There's no, yeah, the thing is, under the CG, there's not much to say in this case.
All right, everyone, please be seated. Good morning, everyone. All right, so I want to let you know that the person who's sitting to my left is an intern. So he has absolutely nothing to do with this case. He's a student who's thinking of entering law school. Okay.
That's nice of her.
All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read to you what's called the charge of the court. It's the jury charge. You do not have to memorize it. A copy will be given to you when it's time for you to deliberate. Charge of the court. Members of the jury, the defendant, Raymond Alejandro, stands charged by indictment with the offense of indecency with a child by sexual contact alleged to have been committed on or about the 21st day of February 2021 in Bexar County, Texas. To this offense, the defendant has pleaded not guilty. 1, our law provides that a person commits the offense of indecency with a child by sexual contact if with a child younger than 17 years of age, and whether the child is of the same or opposite sex, the person engages in sexual contact with the child or causes the child to engage in sexual contact. 2, child means a person younger than 17 years of age. Sexual contact means any touching by a person, including touching through clothing, of any part of the genitals of a child if committed with the intent to arouse or gratify the sexual desire of any person. 3, a person acts intentionally or with intent with respect to the nature of his conduct or to a result of his conduct when it is his conscious objective or desire to engage in the conduct or cause the result. A person acts knowingly or with knowledge with respect to the nature of his conduct or to the circumstances surrounding his conduct when he is aware of the nature of his conduct or that the circumstances exist. A person acts knowingly or with knowledge with respect to a result of his conduct when he is aware that his conduct is reasonably certain to cause the result. 4, our law provides that the time of the offense alleged in the indictment must be some date anterior to the presentment of the indictment and not so remote that the prosecution of the offense is barred by limitation. The phrase on or about means that the state is not required to prove that the alleged offense happened on that exact date. There's no limitation period for the offense of indecency with a child by sexual contact. Therefore, it is sufficient if the state proves that the offense alleged was committed sometime before February 8th, 2022, which is the date the indictment was filed. 5, now, if you find from the evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that on or about the 21st day of February 2021 in Bexar County, Texas, the defendant, Raymond Alejandro, did intentionally or knowingly engage in sexual contact with Jesus Leza, a male child younger than 17 years, by touching part of the genitals of Jesus Leza with the intent to arouse or gratify the sexual desire of any person, then you will find the defendant guilty of the offense of indecency with a child by sexual contact as charged in the indictment. If you do not so find beyond a reasonable doubt, or if you have a reasonable doubt thereof, you will find the defendant not guilty. You are instructed that you must not communicate with or provide any information to anyone or receive any information from anyone by any means about this case. You may not use any electronic device or media such as telephone, cell phone, smartphone, iPhone, BlackBerry, iPad, tablet or computer, the internet, any internet service or any text or instancing messaging service, or any social media platform, internet, chat room, blog, or website to include, but not limited to, Facebook, MySpace, Instagram, Snapchat, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, or Twitter to communicate with anyone, any information, or receive any information from anyone about this case, or to conduct any research about this case until I accept your verdict. Written statements made by a witness to investigators or other officers, or police reports made by officers and tendered by the prosecution to the defense for purposes of cross-examination are not part of the evidence unless introduced in evidence. Many times, statements and reports may be marked with an exhibit number, but are neither offered nor received in evidence. I can send only statements and reports received in evidence to the jury room. You are instructed that the statements of counsel made during the course of the trial or during the argument, if not supported by evidence, or statements of law made by counsel, if not in harmony with the law as stated to you by the court, and these instructions are to be wholly disregarded. You must disregard any comment or statement made by the court during the trial or in these instructions, which may seem to indicate an opinion with respect to any fact, item of evidence, or verdict to be reached in this case. No such indication is intended. If at any time the court instructed you to disregard testimony, you are reminded to so disregard it, and you are not to consider such testimony for any purpose whatsoever. You are instructed that the grand jury indictment is not evidence of guilt. It is the means whereby a defendant is brought to trial in a felony prosecution. It is not evidence, nor can it be considered by you in passing upon whether this defendant is guilty or not guilty. During your deliberations in this case, you must not consider, discuss, nor relate any matters not in evidence before you. You should not consider nor mention any personal knowledge or information you may have about any fact or person connected with this case, which is not shown by the evidence. You are instructed that you are not to let bias, prejudice, or sympathy play any part in reaching a verdict in this case. After argument of counsel, you will retire to the jury room, select your presiding juror, and proceed with your deliberations. After you have reached a unanimous verdict, the presiding juror will certify thereto by filling in the appropriate forms attached to this charge and signing his or her name as presiding juror. You are the exclusive judges of the facts proved, of the credibility of the witnesses, and of the weight to be given to the testimony, but you are bound to receive the law from the court, which is herein given to you, and be governed by that law. In order to return a verdict, each juror must agree to that verdict, but jurors have a duty to consult each other and to deliberate with a view to reaching unanimous agreement if that can be done without violence to individual judgment. Each juror must decide the case for himself, but only after an impartial consideration of the evidence with his fellow jurors. In the course of deliberations, a juror should not hesitate to re-examine his own views and change his opinion if convinced it is erroneous. However, no juror should surrender his honest conviction as to the weight or effect of the evidence solely because of the opinion of his fellow jurors or for the mere purpose of returning a verdict. All persons are presumed to be innocent, and no person may be convicted of an offense unless each element of the offense is proved beyond a reasonable doubt. The fact that a person has been arrested, confined, or indicted for, or otherwise charged with the offense gives rise to no inference of guilt at his trial. The law does not require a defendant to prove his innocence or produce any evidence at all. The presumption of innocence alone is sufficient to acquit the defendant unless the jurors are satisfied beyond a reasonable doubt of the defendant's guilt after careful and impartial consideration of all the evidence in the case. The prosecution has the burden of proving the defendant guilty, and it must do so by proving each and every element of the offense charged beyond a reasonable doubt. And if it fails to do so, you must acquit the defendant. It is not required that the prosecution prove guilt beyond all possible doubt. It is required that the prosecution's proof excludes all reasonable doubt concerning the defendant's guilt. In the event you have a reasonable doubt as to the defendant's guilt, after considering all the evidence before you and these instructions, you will acquit him and say by your verdict, not guilty. Suitable forms for your verdict are attached to charge for your convenience if you care to use them, but they are not intended to suggest to you in any way what your verdict should be, and you may or may not, as you see fit, make use of them. At any rate, your verdict must be in writing and signed by your presiding juror. Your only duty at this time is to determine whether the defendant is guilty on the indictment in this cause, and you must restrict your deliberations to the issue of whether the defendant is guilty or not guilty and nothing else. After you have retired to the jury room, no one has any authority to communicate with you except the officer who has you in charge. Do not attempt to talk to the officer or anyone else concerning any question you may have. Instead, address your question to the court in writing. If you want to communicate with the court, notify the bailiff. Any and all communication relative to the case must be written, prepared by the presiding juror, and submitted to the court through the bailiff. Respectfully submitted, Judge Stephanie Boyd, 187 District Court, Bexar County, Texas, and suitable forms are attached. State, are you prepared to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
The state will reserve the remaining time for rebuttal.
Defense, are you prepared to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you may proceed.
So they got 20 minutes each for closing argument.
873 days. That's how
Fantastic.
long it took for Raymond to be able to tell somebody who actually wanted to listen and hear him tell you what actually happened.
Stop it there for a second. Erin, thank you so much. Sarah P got one and Lady Law got one. So apparently all 5 were spent. So really appreciate you, Erin. Thank you. Taco, 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 taco. Thank you. So just so you all know, this is literally, they got 20 minutes each max, and the state have now deferred their closing speech to afterwards. So they're only doing a rebuttal one. Half an hour, 40 minutes, we'll be done. Hi, Lou. Hi, everyone. Yeah, and Lady Law got the other one. So, oh, and C Swept said she doesn't see you. For me to pass on a message to say thank you so much. Love you, Erin. She said because she got
Didn't
one.
happen on that day. You and each of you do solemnly swear that in the case of the state of Texas against the defendant, you will true verdict render according to the law and the evidence, so help you God. So again, that's why we went through that process, because there was people that had some bias or things that they didn't think that they could sit on this case. But each of you swore that you were going to take just the testimony and evidence that was presented and nothing else to decide this case. Now, I apologize if my voice seems shaky or I seem a little bit nervous. For a defense attorney, this is the most nerve-wracking part, because I go home at night and I wonder what I could have done. Could I have done more? Should I have done something else? Did I come off too abruptly? Because this is the last time I get to talk to you. And again, we talked about the burden of proof, and we talked about why that burden of proof is beyond a reasonable doubt. Because in a case like this, like the judge said, there are circumstances, and in this case, where a child's under 13, there is no probation. It's prison, and you're talking about someone's life and liberty and freedom, and that's why it's the highest burden that we have. When we talked about, should the burden of proof be lower because it involves a child? And each of you again swore, no, that's not how it works, and you're going to abide by that. Talked about the burdens of proof, what it takes for an arrest, probable cause, way at the other end. We talked about clear and convincing evidence. And I asked a few jurors, how much evidence would you want in a case where the state is trying to take your children away? I said, you better bring all of it and more. I said, okay, well, now you go a step further. And that's, again, I can't give you a definition, but it's even further than that. Again, the burden of proof in all criminal cases rests upon the state throughout the trial and never shifts to the defendant. And we talked about 3 possibilities when you're back there. Might be thinking, not guilty, guilty. You might be thinking, man, one person is saying this happened. Another person is saying it didn't happen. I don't know. And it's not 50.001%, right? It's beyond a reasonable doubt. That you have no reasonable doubt that it didn't happen. And again, you might be thinking, I don't know. And we talked about, what does your verdict have to be? It has to be not guilty. Presumption of innocence. All persons are presumed to be innocent, and no person may be convicted of an offense unless each element of the offense is proved beyond a reasonable doubt. Again, so that stays with Raymond throughout, that presumption of innocence. And each of you again swore, yes, I can follow that. During your deliberations in this case, you must not consider, discuss, or relate any matters not in evidence before you. We talked about speculation or guessing, or well, maybe there's something else, or maybe no. It's what came from that witness stand and the evidence that the state proved. Again, there's no assumptions, there's no guesswork, and the only gaps that you have, if you're thinking, well, I wish I knew this, or I wish I had this, that gap is filled by the presumption of innocence. Your job. You're the exclusive judges of the facts proved, of the credibility of the witnesses, and the weight to be given in testimony. Again, Judge Boyd read that jury charge. She gives you the law. You'll have that with you, but you get to determine the credibility of the witnesses. Now, the state kept trying to get the investigator to determine the credibility of the witnesses, but that's your job. Again, I don't get to come up here after this, after I sit down, probably thankfully for you, I don't get to come back up here and talk again. But the state comes up. So what I think they're going to say is use your common sense, and I agree, use your common sense. But again, fill those gaps with the presumption of innocence. Protect the community, children need to be protected. Again, this isn't a case of this side thinks that sexual contact with children is wrong and we think it's right. That has nothing to do with it. Again, it's the evidence that was presented in this case. Okay, well, yeah, he had some inconsistencies, but he's young, or it was a long time ago, or those don't go, whether they shared a room or didn't share a room, those don't go to the elements. But we all know that those are important. That I told you it was going to be a general allegation with very few details. And the very few details we got were inconsistent with each other. And we know that that's important to judge credibility.
I believe the mother and the stepdad just went out. I think they both just stepped out.
Again, what they told you, he came up here in opening and told you he was going to talk about some incident afterwards in the living room. And then he asked Jesus, and Jesus said, no, that was it. I didn't see him again after that. So again, zero testimony or evidence of that, of what he came up here and told you he was going to prove to you. Again, he told you that he never saw Raymond again after that incident. And the state, again, they'll tell you these cases are important. I agree, they are important. Jesus said, yeah, I've talked to him once in the last 2 years, talked to him last month. You're instructed that you're not to let bias, prejudice, or sympathy play any part in reaching a verdict in this case. Okay, so it's not which side you like more. It's not that we feel bad. I'll tell you right now, whatever your verdict is, there are no winners. Okay, you heard from the family themselves that it has split the family. You can literally see it in the courtroom. It has split their family. And your verdict, one way or the other, is not going to repair that. Okay, so that's not a consideration. Again, it's about the facts and evidence that were proven in this case. Investigation. The deputies made a decision they were talking about warrants and cases less than an hour. And they told you themselves that they didn't even get details. They got a general allegation. They already were telling the family, okay, we'll get a warrant. Don't worry about it. They didn't try to collect any physical evidence. And they did nothing to corroborate. And I'll talk about Investigator Salazar, because the testimony that the deputies and investigator gave is frightening for everyone in Bexar County. That's the investigation. That if someone calls the police and says, I was sexually assaulted, that's it. They don't care. They don't care if they talk to Raymond. They don't care about getting DNA evidence, even trying to get that DNA evidence. Again, is it easy or difficult? A phone call to the police with a general allegation, and that was it. That's all they needed. And they told you we don't try to get more information. So again, the deputies, they at the scene, no one's crying or hysterical. They asked some basic questions and they left. They told you, oh, we're not qualified to ask investigative questions. So Salazar, again, the deputy said, well, all that stuff that's on the investigator. Okay, so what did Salazar do? Well, first of all, she told you, well, I had to attempt multiple times to try to contact the mother. I called her, I texted her, had to get her in months later to get a written statement. They couldn't contact Raymond. That
Yes,
that
Sarah.
is absurd. Okay. He's on the same phone plan for a few months. He lived at his mother's address. Okay. That they couldn't get contact information for him. I'm sorry. Again, that's absurd that they couldn't even attempt to contact him. The things that investigator Salazar was saying, my victim, and we go out with a mindset not to upset the victim. Again, it's not a mindset of unbiased and let me investigate what's going on here. It's a mindset of, okay, I don't want to upset that person. Talk about within 120 hours. And the deputies were out there within 120 hours. The deputies didn't ask about showering. That's at the same exam later. So again, they're going to say, well, we probably couldn't have gotten any DNA anyway. But could you at least have attempted to try to get the clothes? Maybe if you actually get an address, you can go to Raymond. Maybe you can try to get DNA from him. Would you still file if you talk to in a hypothetical scenario, if you talk to the defendant or the suspect and they deny it, would you still file it? Yeah, absolutely. It didn't matter what he was going to say. It didn't matter what anything happened. They were going to go forward with it regardless. Again, it was biased and there was zero regard for the presumption of innocence. So, Jesus, couldn't remember a lot of details or what he said previously. Again, you get to judge the credibility. There wasn't really reactions to the questions. And to me, that signals not understanding the ramifications that someone's life, that someone is going to go to prison based on what you're saying. And it's a general allegation. So, Jesus, well, I didn't testify. Well, I don't remember what time. Again, Regina said, well, he told me it happened at 5 a.m. My mom told me to go to sleep. Well, he doesn't really have a bedtime on the weekend. And we know that was Saturday night leading into Sunday. And again, you may say, well, they're going to say, well, these don't go to the elements. But these are the few details that we actually have. And so that's why they're important. Went to school the next day. Well, again, the next day was Sunday. You didn't go to school. He was steadfast. I initiated that conversation. I took my mom and I needed to tell you. And she said, no. I took him and I needed to talk to him. Again, testified. Well, I don't know how long it was. And it lasted 15 minutes. Okay, we shared a
This is just
room. Well,
Awful.
we know that they didn't share a room. Shared a phone. We know that they didn't share a phone. I heard footsteps. That was the first time he ever said that. Just randomly, 2 years later, now remember, I heard footsteps. Didn't testify about knocking, but again, we know they told that he did knock. Not remember the CPS. But he told CPS, okay, well, yeah, I'll do your interview if I can miss school. I was pretending to be asleep so I wouldn't get in trouble. But then I saw it was Raymond coming in. So to me, why are you still pretending to be asleep? You were worried that your mom was coming, okay, but then you see it's Raymond. So again, why are you, it's just common sense, why are you still pretending to be asleep if it's just Raymond coming in? Pretending to be asleep, but he's got the TV on with the lights on. Again, no mention of TV before. He says underneath clothes, but then changes it to pull pants down. So Raymond, he didn't have to get up here and testify. He could have got up here and said, oh yeah, the family, they hate me. And they told me they were going to get me. And he could have told you, he could have made up some sort of motive. Oh yeah, Jesus was jealous of me or whatever the case may be. he told you the truth. We had a great relationship.
Yeah.
He was being honest with you. You judge his credibility the same. Everybody starts out at the same level. Again, he subjected himself to cross-examination. And I don't know, they might make a big deal. Oh, well, I asked him, did you touch him in bed? Well, the whole trial we're talking about, it's a touch case, touch DNA. So when they ask him, no, I didn't touch him, because really what you want to know is, did you touch them inappropriately? Okay, so he says no. Of course, if you're laying next to somebody in bed, you're gonna rub up against them or touch them. And so he was wondering what was going on. Why, that's common sense. Why are you asking that? And he says, well, yeah, I don't remember. It wasn't memorable, whatever the touching was, but it wasn't inappropriate. They brought in Samuel Brago. Told you important to follow protocols on those forensic interviews. The forensic interviewer was not here. We don't know what protocols were followed.
5
if they were
minutes.
followed. Thank you, Judge.
15.
Again,
15.
he said it's a neutral party. Police are there and consult on what questions to ask. He didn't do the interview. And what did he tell you? Some children tell the truth and some children lie. Okay. Julie Vereen, concern for sexual abuse. Anytime someone says that they were sexually abused, she's going to say that. Normal finding. Again, didn't tell you anything. Those two witnesses, what did they tell you? It might have happened, it might not have happened. Do we always know why someone would make an accusation? Again, and I asked you, would you require me to prove a motive? Because I can't. It's in someone else's mind. So again, motive. Some things that came out that I'll tell you. It's a new family. There's a 1-year-old. There's a lot of things going on. Both parents are working. Again, maybe seeking attention. I don't know. Again, I'm just trying to give you some things that stood out to me. It said it was a moody teenager. Didn't want to go to school. Again, I don't really think he understood the ramifications of what was going on. And we talked about, is that ball, once that ball gets rolling, well, he told his mom, and immediately the family is called. So the family's involved. So that's immediate. Then the police are there. And then you're talking to other people. Now the family is already split. That's a lot for anyone, let alone a 13-year-old to walk back. Again, common sense. They told you Raymond had, he would watch the kids, he'd be alone with the kids. Okay, so common sense. You have the opportunity, you have that time alone, but what does he supposedly do? He waits until Sunday at 5 a.m. with a door that we know can't lock, when the entire family is in the house, when someone could easily yell or scream and wake up anyone, when a 1-year-old, if you had a 1-year-old, can wake up at any time to wake up people, when they can see whether they can look out and see whether he's sleeping on the couch or not. And when a police officer with a gun is right down the hallway, that's what they're telling you. That doesn't make sense. And that he knocks on the door to announce that he's coming. Again, those things just, they don't make sense. Again, the burden of proof, did they prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt? Is it so much that you've been
finish.
taken to that spot, that you've gone past 50.01%, that you've gone past the moment that was enough evidence to take someone's children away, that you've gone all the way to that edge of the wall, that you're convinced beyond a reasonable doubt? Did they do that? And that's your question. That's your only question. Did they take you to that spot and give you enough credible and reliable evidence that you say beyond a reasonable doubt, Raymond did that and he's guilty?
Yeah, come on,
And they
mate.
didn't
Sit
do
down.
that in this case.
Sit down, counsel.
Again, there's no winners here.
Sit down.
What is done is done,
Sit down.
but your single job.
1 minute.
Thank you, Judge. Did they produce that evidence, reliable and credible evidence that you're the judge of the credibility, not the state, not their investigator who didn't do anything, you, because you were in the courtroom listening. Did that take you to the spot that you say beyond a reasonable doubt? And ladies and gentlemen, they did not. And again, it's frightening that the allegation and investigative work in this case, or lack
God.
of, but again, did they take you
Stop.
to that point? And they didn't. And because of that, I ask you to find Raymond not guilty. Thank you.
Thank fuck for that. That's just too much. So, Lou, in case you didn't hear, the victim is
Right, State, are you
15 years
prepared?
old now.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you may
That's just
proceed.
too much.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court, opposing counsel, and ladies and gentlemen of the jury. He never asked Jose and Regina why he was no longer welcome in their home. He told us. He never inquired
Lie.
with Jose and Regina as to why he was getting kicked out of their home, because he
Lies.
knew exactly why, and he knew that he deserved it. Even though they were still paying for his phone, he told us he made very minimal effort to even reach out to them and inquire why he was no longer welcome in their home. He said he called, but they never called back. I guess he just dropped it. I guess it wasn't that big of a deal, but he didn't send a text asking why. He didn't send an email asking why. He didn't plead his case to them. He made no effort really to reach out other than a phone call, even though these people trusted him with their children. They trusted him in their home. They even trusted him to sleep in the same bed as the children. And Raymond, by his own words, said he had a great relationship with them. He said they were some of the best family he'd ever had. Those were his words. And it makes sense. Everyone here, every witness on the witness stand corroborated that fact. They all told you that he would help out around the house, that they were like brothers, until one night when Raymond walked down the hall and went in to Jay's room. Raymond pulled down Jay's pants and he touched Jay's penis with his hand. And we heard that he did that for 10 to 15 minutes. And we also heard that he was trying to masturbate Jay. We heard that Jay was kind of reluctant to use that word. Jay's a young man. And I can understand why that's a little bit embarrassing, but we heard from his mother, who was able to tell us what he said back when it happened. And that's what he told his mother that Raymond did to him. And the rest of the family clearly had nothing against Jay until they heard about the night, or nothing against Raymond until they heard the night when Raymond sexually abused Jay. So Regina and Raymond both told us that there was kind of a deal in place. That Raymond would help the family with the newborn. He'd help around the house. He'd watch the kids, and he'd get to stay on the couch. Nobody disagreed about that. Raymond told us that. And all of a sudden, that agreement has changed. Raymond told us that they came home. Everything was weird. Nobody would talk to him. Everybody went into their room, shut the door. Nobody would say anything. And then all he got was a phone call from Angel that Raymond needed to go. Raymond needed to pack his things and leave. Now, Raymond didn't go to the door, like say, hey, like I understand it's closed, but he could yell through, hey, I thought we had a deal. What's going on, guys? He didn't really do anything. Does that make sense? We're talking about using common sense. Does that make sense that someone with that type of a relationship with the family, he was basically another family member, he's getting pushed out Why wouldn't he say anything? Why wouldn't he protest? Why wouldn't he at least call through the door to find out what's going on? Because he knew exactly why he was getting kicked out and knew that he deserved it. Let me talk about some technical matters with the case that we need to discuss. On or about some date anterior to the indictment. I don't want you to be confused by that. The date in the indictment is the date that we talked about on the witness stand, and it is anterior to the date of the indictment. So you'll be fine with that. This defendant, he was ID'd in this courtroom intentionally or knowingly. That's what he did. He walked right in there and intentionally and knowingly touched Jay's penis when he masturbated it. And Jay was 13 years old at the time, and with the intent to arouse or gratify the sexual desire of anyone. I don't want you guys to get hung up on that either. There is no reason why. There's no other reason. There's no innocent reason why someone would go into another person's room, pull down their pants, and masturbate them for 10 to 15 minutes, other than to arouse somebody's sexual desire or gratify that desire. So I want to touch on a couple of the defense arguments. First off, they said Jay's just a moody teenager who's jealous of his siblings, so he made up this lie. That is absurd, and that is insulting to probably everybody in this room. That just explains all of this. There are lots of moody teenagers. That's not what they do. Then he said 873 days. He stood up 873 days. He's waited. Well, guess who else has waited 873 days? Jay. And Jay has had to deal with this for 873 days. You heard about the SANE exams, the forensic interviews, the officers who come to his house, and then he has to come meet with the state to prepare for trial. This is an ordeal, folks. This is not something that somebody would want to voluntarily put themselves through. And then he gets on the stand and he has to say these things that he doesn't want to say to this room full of adults. It's absurd that a child would want this right now. That a child would want that. And then he says it's hard to say that this isn't true. It's very easy, folks. It's very easy. Maybe he'll be grounded for a few weeks because his parents will be mad at him. But he could have easily recanted at any point. He hasn't. And if he did, you would have heard about it from defense. Then he talked about sharing a room. Oh, well, he didn't remember whether they shared a room. Well, remember the testimony. They shared a bed. So yeah, would he not remember, was that the time when we were sharing the bed or not? They shared a bed. He misrecalled it. I don't think y'all should hold that against him, that one lapse in memory. They also said the decision to get a warrant was made in less than an hour. Well, when you make a report to the police and you report the full crime to them, yeah, they jump into action. They go ahead and they get a warrant against the person you said did the crime. That's the start of the investigation. That's not saying he's guilty. That's not ignoring any type of presumption of innocence. That's how they start the investigation. That's not anything out of the ordinary. He said that the DNA evidence was not attempted to be collected. You heard from every witness, the same nurse, the detective. This isn't, in a case like this where it's just a touching, you generally don't find evidence, especially when there's that lapse of time. This is all normal. His complaints about the investigation that he's putting in front of you are just normal things in an investigation that you will see. That does not make somebody not guilty of the crime. And one thing I wanted to point out, he said, well, the officer said she would still file charges even if he said he didn't do it. Is that surprising to anybody here, that when a police officer interviews somebody and they say, well, I didn't do it? Well, if the police officer just said, okay, well, I'm fine, you said you didn't do it, I'm not going to file charges then. If that happened, then everybody would just say they didn't do every crime and nobody would ever get in trouble for any crime. That is absurd. That the fact that it's not ignoring someone's presumption of innocence to go ahead and file charges. Again, it's just the filing of charges. You're not found guilty when charges are filed. So let's return to the discussion of the facts. Immediately after the abuse happened, Jay was somewhat reluctant to tell his mom about it. He didn't tell her that same day. You remember, it was that Monday. Everybody came home. Jay said, everybody thought the son was acting weird, and even mom and son agree. They don't exactly agree on who initiated the conversation, but mom said, Jay said, Mom, sit down. I've got something to tell you. And mom said, that's not normal for Jay. Jay doesn't break news to me in that way. And mom's got no reason to lie about that. Mom has basically no dog in this fight. You've even heard from Raymond. Mom and Raymond had a great relationship. They were great family members. Why would mom have any motivation if these things were not true, if these things did not happen? So he tells his mom to sit down. He breaks the news to her, even though it was difficult. And he knew it was a serious thing that happened. And you could hear Jay saying on the stand, I knew it would be hard on the family. That's also part of the reason he was hesitant. And at some point, the jury will need to also sit down and talk about this case. You're going to go into the back room and you're going to have some evidence. You're going to have the SANE exam. And you remember the SANE nurse talking about the exam that she gave. You'll be able to read the narrative. And you'll find that that narrative is largely similar to the narrative that you heard from Jay. And you'll be the sole judge of witness credibility. And I want to point out that while the defendant doesn't have to testify, you can't hold it against him if he doesn't. He also doesn't get extra credit if he does. He doesn't get bonus points for testifying, especially if you don't find what he said credible. And I think a lot of what he said wasn't very credible, wasn't very reasonable. It didn't pass the common sense test. And so I think we all know what happened. We heard from Jay, and he told you about the important sensory details. He told you about how he felt Raymond's hands were cold when he touched him. He told you about how he remembered the footsteps coming down the hallway. He told you he remembered the lighting situation in his room. He remembered that the lights in his room were off. He remembered the lights out in the hallway. He remembered it was really late at night and his mom wanted him to go to bed. And let me touch on that for a moment. The idea that, well, because he doesn't have a bedtime, well, it's not possible that mom told him to go to bed on a particular night. We're talking 5 a.m. I think a lot of parents will at some point say, hey, it's 3, it's 4, it's 5, go to bed, son. So the idea that he doesn't have a bedtime doesn't mean that his mom couldn't have told him to go to bed. So I think there's a lot of defense distractions you were presented with, but when you look down at the elements and you remember what Jay told you about that night, it's pretty clear what happened, and the elements have been met. Jay told you about Ray coming into his room, pulling down his pants, touching his penis, and masturbating him for 10 to 15 minutes. He told you his story, and now you're a part of it. And now it's time for you to do the only proper thing, and that is to go into the jury room and find him guilty. Thank you for your service.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I kept telling you I would let you know when it was your turn or time to deliberate. So Deputy Laura is going to take charge of you. I'm going to ask that Monica Vara and Adam Gonzalez, if you will remain behind, please. All right, everyone, please rise.
Oh my days. That must be up there with the worst closing arguments ever on both sides. I think the state did a better job than the defense, but still, my days.
All right, everyone, please be seated. State defense.
They're going up. Well, you know my stance. I haven't changed my mind. I'm not guilty on this. I would have him not guilty. The closing arguments did not change my mind on anything. That must be his brothers in the back. Well, his family then. I believe, here comes his I think the family is fractured. I think it is cut in half now. It seems that the family are all on his side, from what I can see here, on the defendant's side. But as I say, that's. I don't think they've done anything. I think that it's a not guilty. I'd be surprised if he was guilty, but that's just leaving the all emotion at the door. That is not taking that into consideration. Judge is a woman of few words. Judge is fantastic. Hi, David. How are you doing, David? Hope you're well.
Oh, thank you.
Where's the money? Well, I don't remember how much she
So,
gets
in this case, it's an onside.
if he's found guilty.
Oh, do you all want to talk with Diana about what exhibits are? I know there were not that many exhibits, but just to make sure,
Sure, it's just the photo.
yes,
The photo.
yes, I only have two on my notes. Yes.
We'll see what happens here now. That we might put
In
the
this
documentary
case,
on.
As I was saying, 12 jurors are selected. And I always do alternates because when
She's
you
talking to the
withdraw below
intern now.
12 jurors, the only way you
That's really good of her, though. She's got intern that is deciding whether to go to law school or not. So she's taking him on for the week. So the person that gave, I think it was Kim asking who gave the cakes and stuff yesterday. It was the intern. It was his mother that baked the cakes for the judge. Yeah, so this is a very emotive trial, obviously, and most people have their ideas. It's just, as I say, I am not guilty on this. I don't think that. Hang on.
12 jurors, you can't force them to go.
Oh,
So that's why
still speaking. Boob cam. Yeah, I love those cams. We've had a lot of boobies here this week. Yeah, we should have a stripes trigger, booby trigger warning, booby warning. I've seen throughout the last few days a lot of people be conflicted a little bit about this case, obviously, because as you say, you want to believe the child, but I've not seen him prove it. I've just seen a lot of inconsistencies in the story, and not just from the victim, but from the mother, from everybody. I don't believe what they're saying about he only tried once to phone the family to find out what was happening. The way I interpret it, he tried a lot of times to find out what was happening, but they just wouldn't engage with him. And the fact that they told the police that they didn't know where he was when he was with his mother, I just didn't know his number and stuff. I don't know. As the lawyers say, there's no winners in this, but I can't find a man guilty when with very little.
Mhm. Oh, are they on the docket today? Are they indicted? Yeah, because we don't do pre-indictment cases here. Okay, all right. If he's indicted, if you can grab the file and I'll get an attorney down for you. You're welcome. So
Yeah.
the state calls their witness.
The other question I had was, like they said about no DNA and stuff like that, and you wouldn't have DNA, you wouldn't have any of that stuff. But like, if he ejaculated, where did it go? It'd either be in his like it must be somewhere in his clothing or in the bed or something. But they never tested anything. Did they test Jesus's clothes, Raymond's clothes? No. They never tested anything. And if he ejaculated, then I know that's not nice maybe for people to hear, but it's true. If you ejaculate, it goes somewhere. But they never tested anything for it. So that's shoddy police work, in my opinion. You know, there's a big difference if they found semen on Raymond's clothing or something, then yeah. But where did it, like, where is it? Where did it go? That might be too TMI. The bag's there, Kim. It's there. New flowers today as well. Um,
Will say, yes, my client was not insane at the time of the offense, but my client has mental disease.
I'm not sure how long they're gonna be out for. Do we want to go and watch a documentary about Ethan Couch? Do we do a Ethan Couch? We all up for watching a 40-minute documentary whilst we wait for the jury to reconvene? I'm not gonna ask. We're doing it anyway, but you know, Sarah, if you could post the link in, we'll use your link instead of my one, and then we'll just watch the documentary. I'll still have this open. If anything happens, we're obviously going to go and watch it. But I don't think anything's going to happen here in the next 40 minutes. And I want to see this Ethan Couch, see what it's all about. Sarah P on the ball. Joch, thank you, Sarah. All right. D D D D D D D D D D D D. D D D D D D D D D D D D D. Sarah P, Sarah P, Sarah P P P, Sarah P, Sarah P, Sarah P. So she went offline anyway, so it makes no difference. Right, present, share screen. What's it called? That.
Innocent people dead.
There's another child in the ditch.
It was carnage. Carnage and destruction.
A perfect storm of wrong place, wrong time,
I started screaming, "Where's my dad?"
shattered lives, and a fancy defense for a rich kid. Affluenza. Too pampered for prison? Affluenza.
Affluenza.
This is preposterous.
When a teen with blood on his hands and money in his pockets didn't serve jail time.
I am sickened by this judge.
Up to that point, life has just told him you can get away with it.
The question on everybody's mind.
Where were his parents?
Tonight, they are here with their son for the first time on camera, answering from the hot seat in exclusive deposition tapes.
Tell us your name, please, sir.
Ethan Couch.
Tanya Couch.
Frederick Anthony Couch.
Did they shower him with everything except the word no? A case of affluenza.
Good evening. It was the single word that set off a national firestorm in a case settled just last week. Affluenza, the so-called illness that a defense expert said should keep a rich teenager out of jail.
Outrage not just at the teenager, but at his mother and father as well. One magazine cover actually branding them the worst parents ever. Tonight, decide for yourselves here when you hear from them under oath for the first time anywhere. Here's Matt Gutman.
Take I-35 20 miles south of Fort Worth and you arrive in Burleson, Texas. A land of big houses, big trucks.
What kind of people live here?
Probably just the good, average, middle class, hardworking folks. Get up every morning, go to work.
It was the night before Father's Day, and Eric Boyles was spending it with his wife Holly and daughter Shelby.
Shelby, and Holly called out and said, Eric, come here. When I walked through the door, they were standing at the window to the front.
Out in front of the house, a young woman driving a white SUV had spun out and was now standing by her disabled car.
So the girls headed out the front door.
The driver of the SUV called for help while Shelby and Holly waited with her. That same night, down the road from the Boyles house, Lucas McConnell's family was hosting a party organized by their youth pastor, Brian Jennings.
He was one of the closest people that I had who wasn't family. I was around him all the time.
Around 11 p.m., with the party winding down, Brian needed to return some tables and chairs to his church. Lucas and a friend jump into the back of Brian's white truck and they head down the road that would take them right past the Boyles house.
I remember we saw a car on the right-hand side of the road, and he decides to pull over.
It was that disabled car, along with Holly and Shelby Boyles, standing on the road with the driver.
We're trying to get out of the car, and he tells us, he's like, no, y'all sit tight. I'll be back in just a minute.
With Brian Jennings on the scene, there are now 4 people by the side of the road. Meanwhile, a third location just a few houses down, there's another party in progress. But this one's not so innocent. 16-year-old Ethan Couch is there with 7 friends.
They're drinking, they're having a good time, and then the young woman needs to go to the convenience store. So they decide, well, we'll go get them. All of them? All of them decide to go.
8 teenagers load into Ethan's souped-up fire engine red pickup. 6 in the cab, 2 in the flatbed, and head on out the road. Ethan guns it, hitting nearly 70 miles an hour in seconds. His truck barreling toward the scene at the Boyles family mailbox. Chance is bringing together a crowd of people whose lives are about to violently collide. Eric Boyles is inside when his world changes forever.
I felt, we don't live in California, but you'd almost think you just had an earthquake. I mean, the house shook.
When the red pickup truck packed with 8 teenagers, 2 in the flatbed, lost control, it swerved into a ditch, sideswiped that disabled white SUV, then mowed down those 4 bystanders, crashing into Brian Jennings' white truck before flipping over into a tree. These photos show what remains of the Ford F-350 that Ethan turned into a weapon of mass destruction, and Brian Jennings' accordion white Chevy tossed across the road. The bodies had been scattered hundreds of feet. At the moment of impact, Lucas McConnell was seated in the back of Brian Jennings' parked white truck.
Do you remember the sound of metal crunching, of glass breaking?
Glass breaking, tires screeching. The car that we were in got hit, and we got shot across the road. We nailed a tree. The back window was completely shattered. A lot of that glass was in the back of our heads.
Just seconds later, Lucas's father, Kevin, part of a caravan coming back from that party, pulls up on the scene.
I see taillights up ahead. As I got a little closer, I see debris in the road. And I'm thinking, that's not a party, that's a wreck. The debris in the road that I saw was the chairs that we had been taken back to the church. And my heart just sank. I was like, oh my God.
Eric Boyles is in his house when he feels the explosion, rushes out the front door to where he left his wife and daughter. He starts dialing the phone.
I was on the phone with 911.
Tarrant County 911, what is your emergency? There's a multi-car accident out from my house.
While Eric's on with 911, half a dozen other frantic calls come in.
There's 4 or 5 kids, there's kids laying in ditches and streets. Are you with the accident right now? Oh, Lord, oh, yes, there's another child in the ditch. Oh, my God.
Oh, my God. We've got one laying on the road unconscious. They say he's breathing.
There were already people out there in front of the house. There was just debris everywhere, table and chairs and car parts and everything else. I walked in the road, and the first thing I did was I found there was a male laying in the road, wasn't moving at all.
Between the 4 people dead in the street and the 10 injured in the vehicles, the casualty count is staggering.
It was chaos. There were people lying around, injured, hurt, dead, people yelling, screaming, help me.
Eric Boyles was yelling
Hi,
for his
Wendy.
wife Holly and daughter Shelby.
I'm calling out Holly and Shelby as I walk, and I kind of got halfway between the road and my fence. And that's when I found Holly. And when I found her, I mean, there was no doubt that she was gone. And then it was a matter of, okay, so where's Shelby?
As Eric stumbles along, searching for his daughter, about 20 feet down the road, he sees a young woman, her body thrown up against the fence.
Everything told me this should be Shelby. It didn't look like Shelby. And I'm sitting there trying to process the amount of trauma the bodies went through and what would the impact be and what would that do to you?
At the same time, on that same dark road, Kevin McConnell is also searching for his friend, youth pastor Brian Jennings.
On the other side of the road, I see Brian laying in the ditch. I ran over there.
So you're on the ground to tend to Brian and suddenly hear what you think is the voice of your son from the
Yes,
truck.
I just heard his voice, and it was just at that moment that I realized that Lucas had been in that truck with Brian.
Right as we got out, we realized that it wasn't just us. There was people everywhere, and then we saw Brian.
I tried to feel for a pulse. I didn't feel a pulse. And I pull out my phone. I'm calling 911.
Sir, how many people are injured, do you know? 1, 2, 3. Multiple. I don't even know how many.
My dad said, just hold this fence right here and just pray.
You can hear Lucas's terrified voice in the background on that call.
Brian, I need you to sit here and I need you to pray, okay?
Oh my God.
Come here. I need you to sit here and I need you guys to pray, okay?
Do you remember what you were praying for?
Brian's safety.
About that time is when the other cars from the party started getting there.
Brian's wife, Shauna, arrives on this hellish scene.
It was a normal drive, and then all of a sudden I saw teenagers walking down the side of the road, and my first thought was, why do people let their teenagers walk down the side of the road? It's like almost midnight.
Shauna pulls over and realizes there's been a crash and her husband was involved.
I really thought, okay, he got hit, but he's going to be okay. And I'm thinking, God wouldn't do that to me.
But her faith is tested by what she finds farther down the road.
I saw him and I knew that it wasn't good because I could see that Kevin was doing CPR.
And by now, Shauna's 3 children are also on the scene.
I was just crying out to God. I was like, please save my dad. I need him. You can't take him yet. I'm not ready.
The first EMT or firefighters that got there, they were just so overwhelmed.
They would just walk down the road and, is he conscious? Are they conscious? Are they conscious?
The scene was as bad, if not worse than anything I've seen. And that's 35 years of law enforcement, because it was a huge crime scene spread over hundreds and hundreds of yards.
Tonight we're hearing the chaos in the moments after a truck full of teens
Slammed into 3 cars, killing 3 good Samaritans.
and a woman with a flat tire.
The chain reaction crash happened late Saturday night.
It's almost like watching a movie. It's like it's not happening to you, and it's just surreal, and it's not real life, but it was.
When we come back, the 16-year-old who was behind the wheel of the red truck has left the scene. Does he really think he could just walk away?
He was like, yeah, just remember my name. I'll get you out of all this. He kept saying that.
Stay with us.
Once again, Matt Gutman and 2020.
The carnage out on Burleson Redder Road looked like a plane crash. 4 people killed instantly, over 100 onlookers, first responders, and victims' families, like Eric Boyle's, jamming the street.
I've never been in the military. I've never experienced war, but I can appreciate what they go through.
Local news crews capture this footage. Authorities scanning through the wreckage. They needed to find the person responsible for the crash. As it turns out, police wouldn't be the first to do that.
What condition was he in? He was unconscious.
Corbin Clark and his mother Shauna, 2 neighbors heading to the scene, find a passed out teenager in a ditch, a quarter mile down the road.
And I kept saying, hey, what's your name? What's your name? He'd say, what's your name? And he said, hey man, I'm Ethan. I can get you out of all this. I was like, I guess he thought I was involved. But he was like, yeah, just remember my name. I'll get you out of all this. He kept saying that.
His name, Ethan Couch, is now one everybody in Burleson remembers. Somehow, he not only survived the crash, but managed to free himself from the mangled truck, and rather than help anyone, he walked away.
The police came, and they said, we need to get you into an ambulance.
Was he struggling with the officers?
He kept trying to shake them off, saying, I don't need all this.
Once Ethan Couch was found The story came together pretty quickly.
That shocking story would turn sadness into outrage. Get this, Ethan's a 16-year-old living the life of an adult by himself just 7 doors down from Eric Boyle's. Ethan was supposed to be cleaning up the place so it could be sold. Where were his parents? Well, Fred and Tanya Couch had already moved on up to this sprawling place in Fort Worth. A 7,000 square foot compound. Take a look at that glittering metal roof. You're looking at the Couch moneymaker. Fred's got a multi-million-dollar sheet metal business, and this estate is complete with guard towers, guest house, and a steel gate surrounding it. But the story of the crash begins to be told by Ethan's blood alcohol content. It comes back 3 times the legal limit for an adult, and that's 3 hours after the crash.
Now understand, this is 3 hours of time he had for his body to clear alcohol out of his system. Speculation, what his blood alcohol was at the time of the accident is through the roof.
As Ethan awakes in a hospital bed, the sun also rises over Burleson Redder Road. It is Father's Day.
The next day, I find these packages where my Father's Day cards have been filled out. And my Father's Day gifts were there. But they were gone. There was no preparation, no time to say goodbyes or anything else.
Out in front of Eric's house, investigators are still sifting through the crash site. Wreckage that spans almost a city block. And 7 doors down, officers pay a visit to Ethan's Burleson house. No one's home, but a trash bin brimming with cans and bottles right outside paints a vivid picture of the last night's activities.
So not only was he drunk, but there were traces of THC, Valium, and some other drugs.
Right, which according to our toxicologists were bad enough on their own, but you combine those with alcohol, just a recipe for disaster.
Richard Alpert is an assistant district attorney who came onto the case just a day after the crash.
The first thing we started doing is bringing those witnesses in and talking to them.
Will you please state your name? Garrett Ballard.
Star Teague.
Garrett Ballard, Ethan's best friend since grade school, and Star Teague, a former and brief love interest, were 2 of the teens in Ethan's red truck that night. These are never-before-seen deposition tapes from a civil lawsuit resulting from the crash. Star says Ethan, Garrett, and another boy started drinking around 6 p.m. the night of the crash.
All 3 of them did a shot of vanilla. I don't know what it was.
So they start drinking, taking some shots, and then they decide to go pick up some friends. On the way back, they decide, we want to get some beer. So there's already alcohol in the house, and Ethan clearly has money, but they decide it'd be more fun to steal the beer.
At the Walmart, I went in, grabbed the beer.
This is surveillance video from that Walmart. Sure enough, there's Garrett Ballard and 4 other teenage boys.
Then we walked out the fire exit.
Ethan stayed with the vehicle, and when the other 5 stole the case of beer, they actually ran out the exit door.
The teens head back to Ethan's empty house, and the drinking continues. Not just beer, but shots of the 190 proof grain alcohol called Everclear.
And then the young woman needs to go to the convenience store. But even the other ones who've been drinking knew Ethan had too much to drink, and they tried to talk him out of it. And he would have none of it. Just made him angry.
With that, all 8 teenagers pile into the truck. With Ethan Couch behind the wheel, right away, things start breaking bad.
Pulls out of there, and immediately going so fast that it starts telling him to slow down. And so his response is, well, I'll just drive into oncoming traffic. So he starts playing chicken with a car in front of him.
I was yelling at him, get over, you need to get over. And when he swerved, the back tires jerked.
I just remember seeing something on the road, and then loud bang, and I remember being in the air.
The vehicle was going about 68 miles per hour.
Had Ethan ever pumped the brakes?
No brakes.
Never touched the brakes?
No evidence of braking was there. You know, your brain, when you're that intoxicated, doesn't work the way it should.
And at that point, I thought Ethan was dead. So I freaked out, and I got out of the truck. I climbed out the back, and I guess I had tunnel vision. I just walked. I just took off.
But for Ethan Couch, walking away from the consequences of this accident wouldn't be as easy. Not with this prosecutor determined to hold him accountable.
I don't know if Ethan's life is salvageable. And quite frankly, I don't care.
But this guy's about to give him the shock of his career.
I think Ethan Couch is suffering from...
Stay with us.
We
Wow,
return to
wow, wow,
2020's
wow.
A case of affluenza.
More than 1,000 people gathered in Burleson to remember a youth pastor killed on a Tarrant County road last weekend.
I'm gonna live to make my daddy proud.
The memorial for local youth pastor Brian Jennings drew so many mourners it had to be streamed online. While crowds were mourning in Texas, Ethan was in a West Coast resort town.
Ethan was at a spa-like treatment center in California.
Welcome to Newport Academy. Its promotional video shows sunset around the fire pit. Equine therapy and yoga are parts of the program. Rehab that cost Ethan's dad nearly $100,000.
We're talking about him living in luxury even while he's being treated.
Ethan's parents, meanwhile, were trying to figure out how to keep their kid out of prison. They quickly assembled the best criminal defense team money could buy, and what a memorable defense it turned out to be.
When did you first see Ethan Couch?
It was about 2 hours after he got home from the hospital.
This is Dr. Dick Miller in another deposition video. Now, he's a prominent psychologist hired as part of that powerhouse legal team.
Well, I think Ethan Couch is suffering from adjustment reaction to adolescence, I would say.
What Dr. Miller was learning in his meetings with Ethan would come to shape this story. That throughout his young life, Ethan's parents showered him with everything except responsible parenting.
Ethan learned you should be able to do what you want to do when you want to do it.
I think that was the message generally.
Before too long, we realized that we weren't dealing with a typical juvenile.
Or typical parents. The Couches definitely had plenty of coin, and for Ethan, that meant every day was Christmas. Nintendos and jet skis as a kid, later, a tricked-out truck, even his own credit card.
Instead of the golden rule, he was taught that we have the gold, we make the rules at the Couch household.
I said that.
Those rules included traffic laws. For Ethan, there weren't very many. His parents happily handing over the keys of their trucks to their 13-year-old, something that, at the time, caught the attention of one of Ethan's teachers.
And what did she say?
Mrs. Anderson said he's not allowed to drive to school.
And what was Fred's response?
Something to the effect that I'll buy the school or something along that line.
And
Impulsive.
When he didn't buy the school, he pulled Ethan out of the school.
Yes, he did.
After that, Ethan's parents opted for homeschooling. It's not clear how much schooling he actually got, but he definitely got the home. As in the 4,000 square foot ranch house he frequently stayed at just down the street from the Boyles family. These pictures from the website Zillow show a wet bar in the den and a swimming pool out back. And if his parents weren't around, sure seems that alcohol often was.
From the friends we talked to, the one thing they admitted very early on was that Ethan was no stranger to alcohol.
I think one night we went through a 30-pack just between us.
Roughly 15 beers apiece.
Probably about that.
Ethan's buddy Garrett even admits to seeing him drive drunk on at least 3 different occasions.
There was history there. There absolutely was history. There was history and warning after warning that this was going to happen.
For prosecutor Alpert, enough was enough. It was time for young Ethan to get a dose of reality.
Up to that point, life has just told him, you can get away with it. We were going to make sure he didn't get away with this.
And he charged Ethan with everything he could, including 4 counts of intoxication manslaughter. Alpert wanted the poor little rich kid to do some big boy time.
We were hoping for and asked for 20 years.
When Ethan Couch loped into court, the selfie swagger from Facebook had been replaced by this. Brian Jennings' daughter, Abby, couldn't believe it.
They made him look really innocent for the trial, and that's not who he was.
But it turned out there would be no trial. Ethan Couch admitted guilt, and the proceedings moved directly to a sentencing hearing.
Really didn't look at anybody. He just kind of sat there, basically stared off into space.
And now we come to the key moment in this case. While recommending treatment over incarceration, Dr. Miller drops a curious term.
Affluenza.
Which goes off like a bomb. Affluenza.
He got up there and he talked about the fact that the reason for this crime was he was a child of privilege and his parents didn't say no to him.
When you heard it, what did you think?
I smiled. I mean, it was ridiculous.
I looked at my mom. I just kind of gave her a look. It seemed like a made-up word.
We all agreed he had terrible parents, but at some point, offering up that because he was raised as a rich kid, he didn't know the difference in right and wrong as a result of affluenza, just kind of blew our mind.
And they were in for an even bigger shock when Judge Jean Boyd announced her ruling. Ethan Couch was sentenced to 10 years probation and time in a rehab facility. 4 dead, 9 injured, and not a single day behind bars. WFAA reporter Jim Douglas covered the case.
What was the reaction?
Volcanic, mainly aimed at Judge Jean Boyd, longtime juvenile court judge here.
She really never even got through with her sentencing. The place kind of lit up, and the bailiffs escorted her out pretty quick.
I felt like the judge spit in my face.
The media crushed to get a shot of the boy who cried affluenza.
To me, it's not right.
He'll be feeling the hand of God.
Money always seems to keep Ethan out of trouble.
Ethan's lawyer had a different take.
We applaud Judge Boyd for having the courage to issue the sentence that's going to give Ethan Couch a chance.
Now, even in a law and order state like Texas, it's not uncommon for juveniles to get rehab instead of hard time. Still, the affluenza defense and judge's sentence lit the national media on fire.
Well, a verdict in Texas sparking new outrage. Shockingly light sentence in a deadly drunk driving case.
Affluenza.
Too rich for jail.
Judge Jean Boyd said the teen wouldn't get the therapy he needed in jail.
I am sickened by this judge.
People wanted this judge's head. They just felt like there had never been consequences in this kid's life. And here's one more example, no consequences.
Judge Boyd wasn't the only one in the public's crosshairs. So was Dr. Miller, who took to CNN to defend himself.
This kid has about an 80% chance of becoming a full functioning citizen. If he goes to the jail, he has about a 10% chance.
I mean, he killed 4 people.
I really don't think that. I wish I hadn't used that term. Everyone seems to have hooked onto it.
What he didn't anticipate was that the BS of what his opinion was going to be hit the winds and he was going to get the reaction he got, which he deserved to get.
So many people were now asking, did Ethan Couch's affluence actually buy him a slap on the wrist? Maybe and maybe not. Because for one family, the case was far from over.
Not so fast. This is not the end of this.
They were about to force the Couches into the hot seat to answer tough questions under oath.
When's the last time you recall disciplining Ethan for anything?
You're going to want to hear this. Stay with us.
Once again, Matt Gutman and 2020.
If Ethan Couch's affliction was excessive wealth, the victims' families were eager to provide a remedy. 5 of the families involved in the fatal crash brought civil lawsuits against the Couches and their family sheet metal business. While Ethan was spending 8 months in a state-run rehab getting well, the Couches settled those suits without admitting any wrongdoing.
Never once has Ethan apologized in any shape or form.
But one family announces they're holding out.
I've yet to see anything good come out of it.
The McConnells, remember, they lived down the road from Ethan's old booze binge pad in Burleson. 15-year-old Lucas was injured in the crash. Now they are determined to have their day in court.
I thought, not so fast. This is not the end of this.
So when your parents told you that they decided to go through with an actual court case, what did you tell them?
I was ready for that.
A lot of people were ready to hear something they'd never heard before. The boy and his parents at the center of this story speak.
Tell us your name, please, sir.
Ethan Couch.
Tell us your name, please.
Tanya Couch.
Please state your name.
Frederick Anthony Couch.
It fell to lawyers Greg Kuntz and Todd Clement to extract the peculiar family history that shaped young Ethan's life.
His parents seem like, regular old Texas parents in some ways.
There's nothing regular about the Couches.
Fred Couch, a rags-to-riches millionaire, has his own history with the law. And get a load of what he allegedly said during a 1992 stop for, you got it, a DUI.
Did you tell the arresting officer I make more in a day than you make in a year?
Probably.
Fred and Tanya had an on-again, off-again marriage, the second for them both. The kind of fractured family life which might require extra care for an only child entering adolescence. Instead, these lawyers say the Couches let Ethan fast forward into adulthood.
People don't allow their kids to drive at 13.
You understood if he was, at any time he was under 16, he was never to be driving by himself.
Yes.
Nevertheless, you allowed that behavior to happen, correct?
Yes. I just kept asking because I wanted to. And eventually they started letting me drive just like the corner store by myself.
And then that progressed to school?
Yes.
Fred Couch admitted allowing Ethan to drive, but both parents say they didn't know about his regular drinking.
Have you ever seen Ethan drink as we sit here today?
I don't remember ever seeing him drink.
Maybe not, but she definitely saw him drunk. Just 4 months before the fatal crash, 15-year-old Ethan was stopped by police at 1 a.m. relieving himself in a parking lot.
Fort Worth officer comes upon him. He's taking a pee outside of a truck. There's a half-naked 14-year-old girl passed out drunk in the car. And this 15-year-old kid is just mouthing off to this officer for using profanity. His mother shows up, starts talking to him, so she clearly knew he was out there.
Did you ask him where he got the alcohol and vodka that was in the truck?
No, I should have, but I did not.
Why didn't you ask him where he got it to try to stop it from happening again?
I don't know.
These attorneys say Ethan Couch wasn't even old enough to drive, was violating as many as 5 laws that night.
5 violations of the law, and nothing's done by Tanya.
Well, not quite nothing. Tanya does admit to concocting a story with Ethan to keep her husband in the dark about the more criminal details.
I wasn't sure how he would react, so I didn't tell him the whole truth. Tony told me that Ethan was peeing at the Dollar General.
What action did you take?
Ethan walked back and forth to work for a month.
Oh, really?
Do you remember any occasion where your dad punished you by making you walk to work?
No, I don't remember ever having to walk to work.
Ethan was required to complete an alcohol awareness course and 8 hours of community service within 90 days. Guess what? Didn't happen.
We didn't do the community service.
You understood, did you not, that he was likely to continue the drinking and driving if there weren't consequences?
I should have known that, yes. I really didn't think that that would happen again.
But her own daughter, Christy, Ethan's half-sister, warned her that, yes, it could.
I just told her that I was nervous that he might be drinking, being at that house by himself, under no supervision.
How long prior to the crash was that told to her by you?
A week.
And that same week, Ethan's friend, Star Teague, says Tanya witnessed Ethan in the house with an open beer.
Do you know for a fact whether Tanya saw y'all with beer sitting there?
She saw us.
Tanya wanted to come in and say, you know, I was always really against drinking and driving. But then when you say, what'd you do to enforce that? There was just nothing. Zero. Do you recall ever disciplining Ethan for anything?
Sometimes I would take little things away from him, or we would just discuss the problems.
When's the last time you recall disciplining Ethan for anything?
I don't remember.
Of course, it's hard to discipline a kid when he isn't always under the same roof. Remember, the Couches were letting Ethan play grown-up by himself in the Burleson house.
In your mind, it was okay to let a 16-year-old kid stay at the Burleson Retta house by himself without anyone present, correct?
That 16-year-old kid, however foolish that it may have been, he seemed pretty responsible.
Was there always alcohol then when you were at the Burleson location?
Not always, no.
Most of the time?
Most of the time, yes.
If there's alcohol, most of the time there's drugs as well.
Yes.
You betcha. Ethan rattles off a list of drugs shocking for anyone, much less a 16-year-old.
I'm taking Valium, hydrocodone, marijuana, cocaine, Xanax, Vyvanse. I think I tried ecstasy once. Pretty sure that was it.
Which brings us back to that deadly June night.
And what was your plan?
Should have a couple people over and drink.
Do you recall any sort of text exchange with your mom the night of this crash?
Yes. She'd just send me a text, don't be out late and don't be drinking and driving.
She was asking what we were all doing, and he was telling her, and she knew that we were drinking. She was like, well, just don't drink and drive.
That was certainly thoughtful, but by now, Ethan had years of experience blowing off the rules without facing consequences. Why should tonight be any different?
Do you remember pulling out of the driveway?
Not really. I have just a picture in my head of just turning out of the driveway, but that's it.
What's the next thing you recall?
Waking up, handcuffed to the hospital bed.
And after all this, Ethan's father actually distances himself from the affluenza defense he paid for.
I don't even know that I believe affluenza is real.
16-year-old Ethan
And despite all the terrible media coverage,
turned his blame
over coddling by his wealthy parents.
His parents maybe need to do a little talking as well.
Even being branded the worst parents ever, Fred defends his family.
I don't think we're profoundly dysfunctional.
Did you teach Ethan that wealth bought privilege?
I don't believe I ever intentionally tried to teach him that.
Did you teach Ethan that indeed because your family was wealthy that the rules didn't apply to you?
Never.
The McConnells are eager for a civil jury to hear every word of this testimony.
I feel like it needs to be done.
Why?
Because I haven't seen any punishment.
But the Couches are as determined to avoid another courtroom as they are to avoid our cameras. Mr. Couch, stay with us.
We return to 2020's A Case of Affluenza.
It's been nearly 2.5 years since that June night when so many lives intersected on this road. And the victims' families, like Eric Boyle's, who lost his wife and daughter right outside his house, remain convinced that this was an accident in name only.
This was not an accident. This was not a good kid that just made a poor decision. This event was going to occur somewhere. It was just a matter of when it was going to occur and who it was going to affect.
The search for justice has been an exercise in frustration, not just for them, but also for prosecutor Richard Alpert.
What would justice have looked like to you?
Justice would have been the system doing something to Ethan that life hadn't done to him at that point, which is hold him accountable.
Did you ever think of prosecuting the parents?
We did. If there was a way to do it, we would have done it. Being a bad parent, unfortunately, is not a crime.
As the one remaining civil case, the one brought by the McConnell family, worked its way through the courts, the judge from the criminal case decided to call it quits. Jean Boyd, the judge who handed down that controversial sentence, retired last year. Foregoing a run for re-election, she declined our request for comment.
Her career in the public mind will always be defined by this case.
Thousands of cases, but affluenza is the one people will remember.
Yes.
These days, Ethan is back working at his dad's sheet metal plant. We reached out to Ethan and his parents, but they had no comment. So we headed back to Texas to track him down ourselves. It was no easy task. We checked out the fancy Fort Worth house, but no answer there. Anybody home? So we went to the family business. We've been staking out Ethan and Fred's business, which is right across the way, for about a week now. But they're not like regular people. They don't come to work at regular hours. They don't keep regular hours. So it's been really hard finding them. When that steel gate slid open and Ethan finally emerged, he clearly wasn't looking to talk. You don't answer a couple questions? But if you take a closer look, that's him right there. The good news, he's not driving, abiding by that part of the probation. And just as the trial in the McConnell case is about to begin, another stroke of good fortune for Ethan. Lucas and his parents have had a change of heart, settling instead of moving forward with the trial. The last time that we met, you were very serious about taking this all the way. What happened?
I think we've succeeded, at least a little bit.
I never saw the child drink.
I don't think we're profoundly dysfunctional.
By showing the world those deposition videos, the McConnells believe they're showing the Couches for who they really are.
By you guys coming here and focusing attention on this, this has made it where we've achieved our goals of, letting the world hear about this story.
Couches don't want to talk. We'll probably never hear their side of the story or hear them apologize.
I think when you have things that you want to hide, you tend to.
Okay, that was horrendous. That was horrendous to watch. Jesus. I was thinking the same though, Lou. Yeah, journalists are the worst. They just think they can stalk everyone. That was horrible. I do know, though, that in the future, Ethan does end up going to jail. I think he's been in jail for a few years because he broke his probation. So, and I believe he's up again to go back to jail for something. That kid, though, Jesus. He gets away with everything. Kills 4 people, injures 9 people, and gets away with it as well. No wonder he thinks he's invincible. Wow. Unfriggin' believable. All right, so look here now. Judge. She's not back. Judge ain't back. Guess who's back? Not this judge. So I hope you enjoyed that. It was a little bit different. We'll do some more of that, like Dateline stuff in between trials. I'm not sure how long this trial is going to be. That's the only thing. What then do we fancy? Let's have a gander. Let's have a gander. Let's bum 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 bum. Oh, Noel. I love Christmas, but I shouldn't sing Christmas songs. I'll sing them all day long. Noel. Right. I know. Hang on. There's some people. I knew a guy who got 10 years hard time to fucking 2 people drunk driving. A legit false pigeon. Jesus. I love Christmas. Merry Christmas, everyone. Snow is falling all around us, Something's a rainbow. Oh, I don't remember. I'm out of touch with him. Having fun, 'tis the season. Something other daddy. Merry Christmas, everyone. Snow is falling. No, I do. I love Christmas. I love Christmas Carol. Same here, Wendy. Wendy, I love them. Like I probably start singing them in October properly. It's fucking 95 degrees. That's true, Kim. That is true. Ugh, Christmas is my favorite time of the year. I don't like Christmas Day unless the kids are here, but I love the build up to Christmas. Love everything about it, and then it's over. It's like, oh, I was on it. But if my nieces are here, it's the best ever. But because they're so grown now, luckily we got the little one now. But so she's obviously great. Right. Does anyone know about this trial? What is it called? It's called the Bradley Yon. Does anyone know about that trial? Bradley Yon, an essay one it is. He defended himself. Anyone know about it? Has it finished? Because there's 3 days of trial there, but I'm not sure if it's finished or if it's going to go on for weeks upon weeks. I don't know. Boob sweat does not equal Christmas. We're lucky. We normally get crap weather for it. It's the only time I'm like, good. Oom bum ba oom bum ba bum bum ba oom bum ba oom bum ba. Dee-dee-dee-dee. Aaron, you'd be right for Christmas though, because Minnesota is lots of snow for Christmas. Ma 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 ram pam pa ram pam pa. Oom pa oom pa 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 pa. Dun, 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 dun. Ba, 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 ba. Um, my God, my daughter says she would have sweat running in unnatural places. Let's look at this. Let's do this something walk again. Right, let me check it out. Before we do anything, let me check this bad boy out. 2 more minutes, Sarah. 2 more minutes. 2 more minutes, and I can swear. Let's do. Ah, where's it gone? It's just yeah, we're right as men. We're all right. My mum boobs sweat sometimes underneath there. I do get a bit of sweat on my mum boobs, but apart from that, it's all good. Let me watch this. Okay, there. I need to put this. I'll just check and see if it's finished this trial. Boob sweat. Okay, so that's a weird one. Two, three. Oh, that's weird. Anyway, we're not going to watch that one because it's going on a little bit, so there's no point. Right. Is there any other things, any other trials that we can watch? Short ones. Mm, so Judge Stephanie Boyd can't be doing anything now then. Right. Let's have a look here then. Bam, bam, ba, bam, bam. Let me open this in another tab. That's not good. No, don't want that one. All right, there's another one I like. No, he's not on. We can't watch that. What do we want? What do we want to watch? What do we fancy? Oh, do you know what? I know what we're going to watch. Spider Girl, Spider Girl, Spider Girl, Spider Girl, Spidey, Spider Girl has saved the day. Spider Girl, Spider Girl, Spider Girl, Spider Girl, Spider Girl is off a bloody rocker. Some of the stuff that she watches, I can't watch half these things. She is wild. Do not want any of that stuff. But she's a proper weirdo in a good way though. She's like Luna, totally out of it. No, I don't want that. She's set me up something. I don't know where she put it though. I'm sure she did something else. No. So what we're gonna do? Spider Girl's still great. Oh, here we go. No, she's done it. She's done it. Oh, what am I on about? Happy days. Happy days, Spider Girl. I found it. What a legend she is. What a legend she is. Not that one. Don't want that one. Don't want that one. Okay. Jeez. We'll watch this, but it's not hang on. No, this is less. Fine. We'll do this one instead then. Let me get out of this one. Opening tab. Oh, you see, Spidey, she is spoiling us. She's not here, but she's spoiling us. Oh, yes, she is. Luna the weirdo. Luna, you are a complete and absolute weirdo. You're my number one weirdo. But I love you, Luna. It's all good. Right, I need to stop this. I've got interrogation here. And you know what? Luna has promised to become a member. You promised. I mean, Luna. No more excuses. um, where is Lady Law or Law Lady? Lady Law is working, my friend, but she's actually just messaged me. Where? Um, okay. So Lady Law is working, but she does like to come in here now and again. Right, so I've got I'm not a weirdo. You are a weirdo. I love Luna. Right. Present. Share screen. So this is a cops grill man who killed American sniper Chris Kyle and friend. Full interrogation. What's the first thing you heard? I just opened the stream and heard you call me a weirdo. I was doing the same yesterday, but you were traveling back yesterday, so I couldn't really do it for you. I didn't want to disturb you yesterday. I actually thought about you just now, but I thought you might still be jet lagged. So that's what I hope people like interrogations. So watch this interrogation. I'm still gonna have the other one up.
Agitated in the video. He squirms around in the back seat. Other times he rests his head with his eyes closed.
911, where's your emergency? Yes, ma'am. My brother just came by here. I was at he's now left, but he told me that he's committed a murder. I'm terrified for my life.
Okay, hold
Because
on.
I don't know if he's going to come back here.
Okay. What's his name and what did he leave in?
His name is Eddie Ralph. Come on, James. Get your shoes on. Let's go.
How do you spell his last name?
Routh. I'm sorry. I'm really scared. Hurry up. Get in the car. Now, listen, I don't know if he's being honest with me.
I know.
Apparently, I'm just really terrified. I don't even know where your police department is. Is it over there?
Over by the
It
highway.
used to be the church.
Yes, ma'am.
It used to be a church.
I'm just going to stay on the phone with you until you get here, okay? And who did he say he had killed?
He said that he killed 2 guys. They went out to a shooting range, and he's all crazy. I don't know if he's on drugs or not, but I know that he's been. Let me talk to you. My husband's going to talk to you because I'm so nervous.
He said he killed 2 guys at a shooting range.
Shooting range he was talking about?
He didn't say.
He didn't say, okay.
He was recently diagnosed with PTSD.
With what?
And he's been acting PTSD.
PTSD?
Yeah, post-traumatic stress disorder.
Okay.
And he's been acting real weird. He was out of the mental hospital, actually.
Okay, what hospital did he get out of?
Green Oaks.
When did he get out of Green Oaks?
About a week ago.
This is Eddie Ray Routh. He was born on September 30th, 1987, to Raymond and Jody Routh. Routh grew up in the Dallas suburb of Lancaster, about 20 miles east of Midlothian. From when he was 13 years old, Routh expressed his interest in joining the military. At age 18, after graduating from the same high school that Chris Kyle, one of his victims, had also attended 13 years previously, he enlisted in the U.S. Marines in 2006 and became an armorer. The following year, Routh was deployed to Iraq before being sent on a 7-month Middle Eastern deployment on the USS Bataan. Routh then served in Haiti for 4 months following the earthquake in January 2010. It is believed that it was in Haiti that Routh's mental health began to deteriorate. At one point, Routh told his father he had been fishing hundreds of bodies, men, women, children, out of the ocean, piling them up and throwing them into mass graves. After serving for 7 years, Routh was honorably discharged from the Marine Corps in July 2011. In the same month, Routh was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder after being admitted to the Dallas Veterans Administration Hospital. It was clear since his return that Routh struggled with normality, and his mental health issues hampered his chances of holding down a job. He was prescribed a large range of powerful medication, including antipsychotics and antidepressants, and was also self-medicating with marijuana and alcohol, contributing to his experiences of a serious depressive illness. However, after Routh experienced several delusional episodes, resulting in him being in and out of the hospital and then drugged and discharged, Routh seemed to improve and moved in with his girlfriend, Jennifer Weed. This later proved to be a risky move because Routh later took Jennifer and her roommate hostage with a knife in their apartment until police responded to the incident. As a result, Routh was admitted to the Veterans Hospital again. Clinicians believed Routh's psychotic symptoms were caused by alcohol abuse and offered inpatient treatment, but he declined and stopped taking his medication altogether. In the evening of the day he allegedly shot and killed Navy SEAL sniper Chris Kyle and Chad Littlefield at a gun range in Glen Rose on February 2, 2013, Routh stole Kyle's pickup and fled the scene and was later found sitting in the parked vehicle, where officers heard him talking about voodoo, the apocalypse, and people feeding on his soul. Audio from the arrest showed Routh saying that everything was happening so fast and that I don't know if I'm going insane. He went on to ask an officer if it's voodoo that's upon us, and I can feel everybody feeding on my soul. Routh then sped off and started a police chase, but the pickup he was driving broke down on the freeway, after which he was forced to surrender. Before the interrogation begins, Routh seems far too relaxed and seems oblivious to the gravity of his situation. At this point, he is already a suspect in the double homicide, which explains why he's still in handcuffs.
I haven't had a pretty rough time of it for now. I just want to sit in here and visit with you and talk to you tonight and see what I can do. Is there anywhere you can take off? I have to talk to these guys about doing that. Still trying to find out a lot of stuff, but me too. I mean, I'm trying to find out more about the world that I've been living in too.
After seeking if the handcuffs can be taken off, Texas Ranger Danny Briley politely rejects his request. He then goes on a tangent about him trying to find more about the world he's been living in. This is point-blank bizarre and questionable behavior.
I never knew I was in this deep when I was looking at the computer screens when I was in Iraq. I never thought it was. Sure. I mean, you can look at, yeah, when you're looking at the screen, it doesn't make sense to you at the time, but then you really realize what's happening, like, it's astonishing, exactly. What? Right. Well, since they have you in this building, and we'll talk about the government. The government wants me to read constitutional rights, federal protections, and also I'll read those to you, and then we can talk. Well, the Constitution cares. Yeah. Let me just read that, and we'll go from there. You have the right to remain silent and not make any statement at all. And any statement you make may be used against you at your trial. Any statement you make may be used as evidence against you in court. You have the right to have a lawyer present to advise you prior to enduring any questioning. If you are unable to employ a lawyer, you have the right to have a lawyer appointed to advise you prior to enduring any questioning. You have the right to terminate the interview at any time. You understand all right? I go around and talk to people a lot, and I never knew counseling was more, counseling between men and women needed to be more heavy in the world than it did. But when you're surrounded on all fronts where you began, you can't just start in one place, Right. You understand those rights they were talking about, right?
The detective has just read him his Miranda rights, and immediately after, Routh begins talking about his beliefs about counsel. However, the detective is taking none of it and immediately brings him back to the main issue of Kyle and Littlefield.
Well, I've been living with somebody with their hand on my ass my whole life. Yeah. I'm not okay with that. That's not right. Somebody doing that to you. It's so sad how it had to happen and stuff, and how it did happen. Yeah, it's, I wish it would stop, you know. There are world councils that can speak about this. There has to be.
I hope you guys don't mind this. I hope it's a little bit different. I hope, you know, I like watching interrogations. I've not seen this one, so I'm not really sure about it. But yeah, I think it's just something different. Once Judge Boyd comes on, we're straight back to it. It's just more of a just waiting for her now to come back. And this is on for another hour. So it'll take us another hour till about midday. Then what we'll do is probably break for lunch then, or dinner for me, and then come back on the other stream then for Judge Boyd again. If you haven't liked the video, please do so. I can see there's only a few done it. Yeah, let's get back to it.
There has to be to keep people accountable. Yeah. You know, right. Evidently, you know, you're right. For stuff like this that people that
That's all good, Erin. That's all good.
can't walk on the ground with because they never walked on the same ground with you, you know what I mean? Right.
Erin, don't lie. You're going to still be here. Erin, you're always here. You never step away. You're always here. Erin. Happy Erin. Happy Erin. Here she is. I love, what do you call it, this one? The hair thing. So Erin's always here. Erin's always here. Happy Erin with a taco. Yay. Right, back to it.
Well, I want you to know, I work for the Texas Rangers, and what we do is we investigate major crimes, homicides. We have all the resources that we utilize to look into those kinds of cases. You understand what I'm saying? Right. And I know what you went through today has been very difficult for you.
The detective uses psychological pressure by telling the suspect that he is convinced of his guilt. In this case, the goal is not to get Ralph to confess to the crime, but to understand his motive or reason for committing it. To do this, the detective attempts to build rapport with the suspect. Rapport is an interactive concept that characterizes the relationship between an interviewer and a subject. An interrogation is typically perceived as beginning when rapport is absent. The interrogator attempts to develop it at the outset and maintains it throughout, and sometimes reclaim it when lost. A popular theoretical conception of establishing rapport suggests that three elements must be present. First, both parties should be focused on the same objectives and attuned to a common mindset. Second, the interaction should flow comfortably. And third, both parties should generally have positive feelings toward one another. The detective reassures Ralph that he understands how he feels to get him to open up.
And I want to talk about what happened. And you can start with when you woke up today and what happened.
The detective starts the interrogation with the classic step of establishing a timeline of events that lead to the crime. By establishing a timeline, the investigator can determine where gaps in the investigation exist, document the movement of witnesses and victims, exploit inconsistencies, develop alibis, and evaluate the plausibility of the suspect's case.
Well, you know, I keep talking to Chris, you know. I keep talking to Chris in my world. Seems like every time I talk to another man named Chris, I just get sent to another man named Chris. I think about talking to the wolf, you know, to the one that's got what the ones in the sky are the ones that fly, you know what I mean? The pigs in the world. They can truly set it pigs. I've been smelling it this whole time, you know. I'm just tired of everybody's fucking bullshit. I can smell bullshit and pig shit, you know. I can tell the difference between two different kinds of pigs. Shit. I don't know how you can smell your shit. Well, I'm not trying to say nobody's shit stinking, but shit's stinking, you know what I mean?
From a different lens, most of Ralph's answers mirror the nonsensical ramblings of someone who has psychosis and other mental illnesses.
And what exactly happened today after you woke up? I'm finally getting rest. Peace in my mind, you know. Yeah. Peace of my mind back that I won't ever get back. Where are you from, Eddie? I mean, I don't know you. Understand that. I don't know where you're from. I was born right here in this land, Lancaster, that we're standing in today. Lancaster, Texas. This is where I was born. Well, not born, but this is where I was raised. And what kind of education do you have? Just high school. I went to high school. I went to join the Marine Corps. After I got out of high school, it wasn't the street that I was turning for. It was the street that I was trying to come back to get. You know, our streets have not been straight here in Texas forever. You know what I mean? No town square. I mean, there's towns that are square and then there's towns that are fixed. There's no real square town. There can be square towns around America. And there can be crooked towns. Sure. You know. What did you do in the Marine Corps? I worked as a prison guard. And I worked on the gun, so it's like tit for tat, you know. Yeah. Who's saying who's right and who's wrong? You know, nobody wants to admit that they're right. Nobody wants to admit that they're wrong. I'm the only man that can change it. Yeah. And that's why he's there behind my back right now. Yeah. How long were you in the Marine Corps? 4 years. How did you meet Chris?
Chris Kyle was the deadliest sniper in the history of the U.S. Army. He himself recounted his time with the Navy SEALs, the main special operations force of the U.S. Navy, in the bestseller American Sniper. Clint Eastwood used the autobiography to make the 2014 film of the same name. Kyle the Legend, as his comrades in arms called him, or the Devil of Ramadi, as his enemies knew him, became a SEAL sniper in 1999. In the 4 tours of Iraq during the war, he allegedly registered 255 kills, although the Pentagon only recognized 160. Even so, the Pentagon figure makes him the deadliest sniper in the history of the U.S. Army. In 2009, Kyle was honorably discharged from the Army, returned to Texas, and started a security company. He also counseled other veterans with problems.
Well, he was the one that was protecting the schools, you know, from my mom. You know, my mom, she was a teacher, so school teacher. Then I finally met the guy, you know, I smelled it for what it was worth. I was like, what's his last name? He was a Kyle. Kyle? Yeah, he was Kyle.
Several months earlier, 25-year-old former Marine Ralph had moved back in with his mother, Jody, in Lancaster, Texas. Jody was an employee at the school Chris Kyle's children attended. After Jody approached Kyle about her son's issues and asked for his help, Kyle agreed to share his military and mental health experiences with Ralph.
And what's that other guy's name?
Chad Littlefield was a proud lifelong resident of Texas, born in Dallas and graduated from DeSoto High School in Dallas in 1995. He worked at DeSoto's Eagle Labs, an oil services firm, as its facilities and logistics manager. Kyle and Littlefield were workout partners and soccer dads in Texas. They regularly visited the firing range both for professional training and to fulfill the mission of Kyle's charitable foundation. Littlefield was involved with Kyle's cause and volunteered to install workout equipment in disabled veterans' homes.
I couldn't even remember. And when was the first time you met the other guy? First time I ever met either one of them was yesterday. I didn't know who they were or not, you know. Yeah. Okay. I knew who they were, but I didn't know, you know, who they were. Okay. Very evident now who they were because I'm obviously here on the top side of the world. So, no. Well, how did you meet them? Did you meet them at your house or did they came and got me at my house? So, and then where did they take you?
Kyle and Littlefield picked up Routh at his home, and they drove to a shooting range in Chalk Mountain, Texas as part of therapy.
No worries, Kim. I've never heard of this one before, so I'm intrigued by this one actually. There's loads of them out there. I'll enjoy them.
We drove down into the country out there, and they went and did some shooting sports, you know. Mm-hmm. Some. You know. What kind of shooting sports? Well, I imagine they're headhunters, you know. Trying to hunt everybody down that did them wrong before, you know. I'm not trying to hunt down anybody that did wrong. Are you? I try to be as reasonable and normal as I can. I try to be as normal and as reasonable as I can every day. I think about it every day. I'm like, I'm pretty damn reasonable. Yeah. I'm pretty damn fair. Right. What happened out there today on just shooting sports? What kind of guys? I was reasonable and fair with the boys, you know. They looked at me in the eyes and I looked at them in the eyes and then and what happened to them today is from your perspective. Well, I can't just keep eating my soul up about this, you know. You're right. And you can't just keep letting people eat your soul up for free, you know. It's not what it's about. It's about having the soul that you have in you for yourself. And I still got tons of people that are eating on my soul right now. I hadn't even been able to sleep. Until I've been waiting for them to come back and get my soul. Yeah. You know that feels. I understand. You know? I just wish the world wasn't such a soulless place, you know? Sometimes it feels like there's no soul for the soup anymore, anywhere. I feel like I'm gonna be writing down books and well, tell me what happened out there. Have you with Chris and that other guy? Well, you know, I've seen, you know, evidently the communism party wants to run rampant in America. Communism times are here upon us, you know. The Reds are already eating up our unions. They know that. It's tragedy. The ones that can't eat the Indians that won't, you know. They're gonna have to have problems about. I can't see the heat. There's gotta be a common ground for us to work on at it better, so we can argue better, you know. There's gotta be common grounds. The warlords aren't very happy with me. I know that. Everybody knows that in town. I can start making things right. I mean, obviously. You saw your sister today. And you told her something bad happened, right? What did you tell her? I told her I had killed men today.
After leaving the shooting range in Kyle's black pickup truck, Routh went to his sister's apartment around 5:45 p.m. Routh then told his brother-in-law and sister, Laura, that he and two other people were out shooting target practice and he couldn't trust them, so he killed them before they could kill him. Routh told him that he traded his soul for a new truck. Laura Blevins told police her brother seemed out of his mind, saying people were sucking his soul and that he could smell the pigs. He said he was going to get their souls before they took his. When she asked Routh who he had killed, he said Chris Kyle and Kyle's friend.
It wasn't a want to or a need. It was a need. I had to get out of that situation I was in today. I mean, if not, I was going to be the next one that would be up there getting my head shot and flip it off, you know.
Routh states that he believed that he needed to kill or else he would be killed, even though there was no apparent threat to his life, and he was the one being helped. Almost as a premonition, during the trip to the shooting range, a worried Kyle texted Littlefield in the vehicle, "This dude is straight up nuts. He's sitting right behind me, watch my six." Littlefield texted back, using a military reference for watching one's back.
And how many did you have to kill today? 2.
Routh confesses to killing both Chris Kyle and Chad Littlefield. This is a huge break for the interrogators.
I'd much rather put in work, you know, against it, but what did you come up with? It was a pistol. What kind? It was a 9. It was a 9. Was this a semi-automatic or revolver? It was just a semi-automatic. What brand gun? It was a SIG. It was a SIG sour, you know. What did you do with that gun? Well, still on that truck, that's why I couldn't, you know, when I pulled back in the town, people feel like they could talk to Jesse or anybody like that. Nobody wanted to talk to me about what was right to do. Everybody wants me to do the right thing, sure, but nobody wants me to pay for it, right? Yeah. I know what's right. Everybody wants me to live for free out on these farms that are high fence and stuff and just shoot for a living. Well, I mean, I can keep shooting for a living. How many times did you shoot them today?
Briley asked Routh to recount the number of times he shot the victims. He will then go on to ask him to describe events as they happened in the shooting range. Such information is crucial to determine if Routh knew what he was doing at the time of the incident.
A couple few shots were fired. How close were you to them? I was right up close to them. I didn't mean to be so close, but did they know you were going to shoot? They didn't know? Why do you think that? Because their training wasn't as good. My training's been better, you know, my life. Who did you shoot first? The ones that I could identify. Was better, you know, clearly identify. The one that I could clearly identify, that was, I knew if I did not take out his soul, he was coming to take mine next. Or something one of his gangsters was coming to take one of my souls next, one of his kids' gangsters. I'm just tired of playing chess with my life. It's not about playing chess pieces in life. I mean, it is about playing chess pieces in life, obviously. The chess holds the power, right? Was there a time today you used any drugs?
After rambling about taking souls and how he's tired of playing chess with his life, Briley asked Routh about his drug use because he thinks there is a correlation between his bizarre comments and drugs. It seems Briley does not want to buy the idea that Routh did not know what he was doing when he shot Kyle and Littlefield. Remember, Detectives are all too familiar with suspects feigning insanity to avoid trial, or at least get a lighter sentence if found guilty.
Yeah, I did use some tobacco today. And some Alejandro. That's true, right? Pure adrenaline, yes. Yeah. I've been running on pure adrenaline for a couple of days now straight. This is one of the first time I've got to feel safe was up here at this police station. Right. With more police around me. Yeah, I was kind of looking at your eyes a little bit constricted. I thought maybe you might have used some methamphetamine or something today. I have not. Oh, you have not? I did not. Have you used it? That's why I've been having such a hard time sleeping because I haven't been taking drugs. I can't sleep at night. Well, who can sleep in that world? Sandman keeps winning, you know what I mean? I tell what I know is right to get out the front door. Well, it just keep coming back in my ass to buy me some more. Yeah, don't, you know. Yeah. Let me ask you, have you ever used methamphetamine before? Never. Drugs are what's bringing us into these war anyways. I know it is. It's about what drugs can get done the fastest by the quickest drug lords will. It's not about that, it's about getting everybody healthy together, you know. You can eat souls when you're down here, you know, the ones that you're doing. But you can never make any more after the true souls are gone, you know. Once all the true souls are gone, you're fucked. About what time did this happen? Maybe after you got in range? I don't know, maybe around 2 o'clock or so. And after you killed them, what did you do next? I fled. I didn't know what else to do. My adrenaline was so high, I didn't know what was right, I didn't know what was wrong. I mean, I know what was right now that I left, you know.
Rouse states that he fled the scene after he killed his victims. This may lead the judge to deny him the insanity defense and the jury to believe he knew right from wrong.
Where were the keys to the vehicle you drove away in? Do you remember? Show me your finger. Well, keys were in it, you know. Your keys were in it? No, the keys were in it. Oh, the keys were in it. Okay. So it was never really like it was, you know, took it. The keys were already in the truck. It was, yeah, pretty much given to me. So, what did you do with the gun that you had? I mean, did you take it with you into the vehicle and then drive away? That is. Did you feel bad for doing that? Yes. Yes, sir. You know, what you do today is wrong, right? You understand that? Yes, sir. keep covering it up forever. That's the reason you fled, right? Because you knew it was wrong.
In the next few minutes, Briley brings up the idea that Routh knew what he was doing during and after killing Kyle in Littlefield.
Well, I knew that there was certain shit that was wrong about it. Some of that certain shit was killing him. You knew that was wrong. Right? Right. And you knew driving away, taking that truck was wrong. And where did you drive to after that? Well, if I was so right, I should have just stayed. Are you asking me, should you have stayed? Yes. Shouldn't have done it in the first place. You know, his men, they're heroes. Right. Understand that? Ultimate heroes. Right. They've been protecting you and me for a while now, for a long while. Well, I wonder if not thinking. Yeah. I guess I need to be doing more thinking in this town and than hurting people. Right. Was there a bomb, like a drug bomb, in some of your stuff? Tobacco. Is that what was in the bomb? Is that true or not? I don't know. You know, you have to be truthful with me. If it wasn't, just be true. What was in that bomb?
Briley believes Routh is not insane and that his actions were triggered by drug use and not a mental illness.
I imagine there's probably some pot in there too, you know, a little bit of pot. And what else? You know, shit, you can't trust anything in Texas with weed in it because it's usually laced up, laced up so fucking tight with different drugs. If yours was laced, what do you think it would have been laced with? Probably some of that wet or, I don't know, could have been anything. What do you mean by that? Could have been wet? What? Could have been any kind of particular drug that was put in the weed, you know? Where did you get it? I haven't bought any in a while. Have you used it today? You have? Yeah. And you're being truthful with me? Yes, sir. I smoked a little bit today. Okay. I've been trying to relax, and I've been doing relaxing. The only thing that was helping me was pot. You know, it was growing here and helping me. Now that I've got so many abandonment issues and trust issues here that I don't know what the fuck is that, you know? I've been having these problems in my town since I was growing up, you know, since a boy. I'm trying to fix this shit that's wrong in our country right now. What did these guys say to you today when you were with them? What did they tell you? They didn't really talk to me about much, you know, they were just, you know, talking about how you know. Yeah, exactly what they said to you. Well, you can't walk around and become a man in a world of shapes, you know. Is that what they told you? If that's what the world's seeing, yeah. I would see that are a mistake. I'm not a mistake. I'm tired of missing out on my life because of this shit. I want you to tell me what these men told you today, these heroes you were with. Tell me what they told you today. Well, you know, they're telling me about, you know, like stuff they've done, stuff they've experienced and stuff. Well, I've already seen that stuff on the other side of the pond. You have? Yeah. When I came back to this one, and it's happening more and more rapid, even more here in Lancaster than anywhere, you know. And how are they helping you today? Who's that? Which men? The men that you killed, how are they helping you today? When they were talking to you? Talked to me pretty shitty, but, you know. Pretty shitty. What did they say? And neither side was being nice about it, you know. Did you do any target practicing today? I did. Tell me about that. Well, you know, I loaded up a 45 and I shot it. You know, what kind of distance? Wasn't a distance or anything, but it was out there a little ways, you know, it wasn't far. But still hit my mark when I was needing to hit my mark true, you know, absolutely. What else did you shoot today? Calm down now. Okay. What kind of 45 was it you shot? Just some target practicing with? It was, I guess it was like a revolver. Was that gun used to shoot anyone today?
It's a bit slow now. A bit slow.
Revolver? No. All right. What other kinds of guns did you target practice with today? Well, there's a bunch of other ones out there. I was out there, and I never shot any of the targets, though. You know. Those bunches of other guns you mentioned, did you shoot anything with them? No. I left them to where they were. So we're meant to be here for some purpose. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Was the other guy named Ted? Yeah. Do you remember that speaker, right? Okay. Where did you shoot him?
Riley tries to establish Ralph's motive for the murder of Chris Kyle, and Ralph remains silent, which makes Riley more convinced that Ralph is aware of the crime he committed and was an active participant in the killings.
So does anybody have to see my parents yet? Did they make it in yet? I have not heard. Anybody heard about them yet? I haven't heard yet. You talk out there and see if they've heard from them? Sure. I'd like to see them. Leave like my mom. One last time, you know. You want to do that because you know she did wrong then? You shall take Chris, right?
Again, Riley is putting more pressure on Ralph to get him to acknowledge that he knew right from wrong when he was shooting his victims.
You do that like that. What's your birthday? 9/30/87. I gotta get these cuffs off the back of my neck. First keep carrying them off my back stuff. The wall ain't that thick in here. Or heavy. Yeah. You know, and to me. Is there anything you'd like to say to the families?
The fact that Ralph does not deny his actions were wrong and even apologizes to the victims' families makes his behavior even stranger. He believes he did what he had to do to preserve his life, but is remorseful for the deaths of Kyle and Littlefield.
Yeah, I'm just sorry for what I've done. Yeah. We can work this out. Okay. You mean that, don't you? I'll come back. How are you doing? So I was wondering about mom and dad. Are they in town yet? Or I would check it. Maybe. I'm just asking that. You know, that I'm going to check it and get here. I'm going to and they're get these presents taken off.
Ralph seems to have forgotten he's in handcuffs, not bracelet things.
Yeah, just like the down more comfortably. And this way, at this time, not back down. I know that you're not comfortable.
These bits I can't watch. Boring. Let's do it again.
I think typical I'll find out the family intersects. They're gonna see you tomorrow. They're staying on Highway, so they're gonna see you tomorrow. So that's to answer your question, so I had to find them to get the answers. I had some things I wanted to clarify with you. The 9mm decision that you said you used to kill him with, is that your personal decision? No, that was the guy's. Okay. So, all right. What did they do after you shot them? Can you explain that to me? They lay there and they weren't breathing anymore. So, okay.
Despite being armed, Kyle and Littlefield did not get the chance to defend themselves after Ralph started shooting. Ralph shot Kyle 7 times and Littlefield 6 times.
About what time did that happen? Yeah, 3 o'clock or so. Okay. Then you left and you drove to your sister's house. And you talked to your sister and you told her what you did. Was there some other guns in that same vehicle you were in? Did you ask your sister if she wanted to see those guns? Do you remember that? Yeah, yeah. Why did you want to show her? You want to see her? Okay, yeah. All right. Let me ask you this. You have stated to me that you would like to say you're sorry for what you've done, like to the families. What would you say to them if you had the opportunity to talk to them right now? Tell them I'm so sorry for what I've done. And if we would have done it differently, I would have done it so much differently. What do you think is wrong? The clothes that you have on now, where did you get those? From home. What were you wearing today out there when you at the gun range? That's what you're wearing? You didn't change clothes? No. Can you think of anything else you would say? No. Can you think of what that marijuana was laced with? Is wet? What was it with?
Briley tries to determine whether the marijuana that Ralph had smoked that day was laced with any other drugs that led him to take such drastic action.
Probably some rewards. You know, nothing out of that. It could have been from it would have been, yeah. Almost got out of here, and get these guys to get back with you. I told you where your band is at. Holy cows. Yeah, that's where your band is at. And you know the band is out there breathing, right? And you know the difference between right and wrong, right? Yes, you do. Okay.
Ralph admits that he knows the difference between right and wrong. This means that any insanity plea he submits to the court will be severely weakened.
All right, let me see if I can go see what these other guys are doing, okay? Sure, arguing about every, you talk to them about when they come over here, okay? cell phone or anything like that yourself? You have it on you? You have a phone? What is that? I can't remember. I can't remember off the top of my head. You try to run from the police, right? And right? I heard talking to you, trying to get you to give up. What I heard them saying is, just come get out. Surrender, right? Why weren't you compliant? Because of what happened? Good. Good. What do you tell your mom? I love her. What do you tell your sister? I love her too. See what she said it never happened? Seemed like you won't cry about it. There's a little see the water in your eyes. Yeah. If you take it back, you would. You notice ink blood on your boots? A little bit.
Later in his trial, his defense called family members, friends, and a psychiatrist who testified that Ralph had serious mental issues before the murders in February 2013. Psychiatrist Dr. Mitchell Dunn, who had interviewed Ralph in the spring of 2014, testified that Ralph told him that 1 month before the shooting, Ralph believed his coworkers were cannibals and wanted to eat him. Dunn said that it was his expert opinion that Ralph had a mental illness. However, forensic psychologist Randall Price, who was called by the prosecution as a rebuttal witness, testified that Ralph knew that what he was doing was wrong. Price said that Ralph had paranoid personality disorder, which is not a mental disorder, and that Ralph's psychotic symptoms were largely due to heavy marijuana and alcohol abuse. But in cross-examination, Price conceded that Ralph did not sound normal in part of the confession as seen in the footage. I killed him because they weren't talking to me. This is the only explanation that Eddie Ray Ralph has given so far about why he murdered Chris Kyle and Chad Littlefield on February 2nd, 2013. The fact that one of the victims is the deadliest sniper in American history, coupled with the timely release of the film about his life, turned the trial into a spectacle. On February 24, 2015, after only 2.5 hours of deliberation, the jury found Eddie Ray Ralph guilty of the murders of Chris Kyle and Chad Littlefield. He was sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole and is currently an inmate at the Texas Department of Criminal Justice prison.
All right, we, the jury, find the defendant Eddie Ray Ralph guilty of the felony offense of capital murder as charged in the indictment. That verdict is signed by Ms. Stafford as foreperson of the jury. You may be seated at this time.
Okay, okie dokie. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. So, I think the plan is now, the judge. There's no verdict yet. The judge is not back. Hello, Suzanne, by the way. Nice to see you again. I haven't seen you for ages. Or feels like ages anyway. So the judge is not back. Guess who's not back? Judge Boyd's not back. So I will be keeping an eye on it. But I'm going to go for dinner. Might as well go for dinner once we can. It's coming up to 12 o'clock there in Texas. Yeehaw, Texas. Texas. So my plan is to come back about 1:15. So just over an hour and a quarter, 20-minute break. And then we'll play more videos until we get the verdict. I think I've got another 2020 video next one. Mix them up a bit. That one's okay, but I found it boring by the end. I was just like, it's just dragging by the end. I was like, I nearly fallen asleep. So I think that's the plan. The link to the next stream is here. I shall post. paste. I might be on by 1 o'clock or Central, 2 o'clock. But once I see any movement with the judge, I'll start it straight away. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, that's the new link for you to use, guys. I'm going to close this one down now. And, you know, for us, Lou, that's going to be about 7 o'clock. 7:15, so between 7 and 7:15, you know, and then we'll watch more videos. Exciting. So yeah, we're gonna have an hour off now to have lunch / dinner. I don't normally have an hour, so I want to take a little bit of time. I'm so tired, so I want to take a little bit of time to do that. So with that, I'll see you all. Obviously, if it's a result in like half an hour, I'll refresh it and I'll start it straight away. Do you know what I mean? But until then, I will see you. I shall see you all. See you in a bit. I'm gonna have my salad, boiled ham and salad. So I'm starving. I want it now. So see you all in about an hour ish. Ta-ra!